Hello.
Me.
Guys are audible, but I'm not because it's reset my audio devices. The good news is that
nice,
now I
nice.
am. Nice. Okay, my microphone resets audio device, guys, but don't worry. I hit the button and I fixed it. This new innovative TeaTime technology where we can have the starting soon screen so none of you guys miss any of the TeaTime action. And what a show do we have in store for you today, my friends? Because we actually have a ridiculous amount of stuff to talk about. We have the elite specializations, we have fishing, we have skiffs, alliances, and maybe Daratex 11. We'll see how far we get through all of that. But anyway, an incredible cast joins me today. It is Mela, well-known dungeon enjoyer, right? Definitely not an erotic role player. Nike and also Brazil is here, okay, taking up his lair once again in the bottom left corner of the screen. So, I think we just leap into it, right? We've had some elite specializations. They've been revealed. And I think the best way to just kind of lay this down is that this was definitely a bit of a shock. I think everyone was expecting all of the elite specializations to be Willbender, Virtuoso, right? That kind of thing. But I think it's fairly safe to say, guys, that these three are a bit of a step up from the first three. What do you guys make of that?
Yeah, they just tripled down on the Path of Fire imbalance. They're just like, Path of Fire wasn't strong enough. Let's make everything stronger. It's exactly the opposite of like what I think what all of us wanted the last time we talked about it. Because I was of the mindset, I was like, this is great. Harbinger, Virtuoso, Willbender, they're all relatively balanced. This is a good direction. We can tone things back a little bit. And then they gave Warrior a skill that hits for almost 500,000 damage on one button press. And it's unblockable, and it stuns, and it can't be blinded. There's a charge up, but you can endure pain the charge up, and then you can just one shot. I guess the only thing that counters it is dodge roll, which, but
Just
seriously.
Just dodge right there. Do you think they're actually super OP though? Because I'm not actually sure if they're really that overpowered. I just kind of looking at them in general. I mean, I look at Catalyst and I go, oh, this is basically, imagine if Firebrand didn't have Aegis or Tomes, right? Or AoE healing. There it is.
Right.
Yeah, sure, the Bladesworn is giga DPS, and obviously, I think the Vindicator is actually probably the most disgusting one, and maybe in a way that people aren't expecting as well. And I think, Vindicator is the one we can talk about first, I guess, primarily. But Vindicator has that crazy trait where you dodge. You basically, your Grandmaster traits all modify your dodges, and the one where you get barrier and healing every time you dodge, and it reduces your endurance cap to 50, and you have the refill trait that also gives you 5 endurance per target hit back on your dodge. That is actually insane. The base value was like 2.5k healing and 2.5k barrier. That actually might be Scourge tier of disgusting for PvE in terms of mitigation anyway. It's kind of a fun trait. But outside of that, I mean, I don't think they're actually like that overpowered. I think Mela was going to come in there. I kind of want to unchain him, unchain Mela into the mix.
I don't really have much to say about Vindicator. I think that Vindicator to me is what Willbender is to many people. Like when I see when I look at Catalyst and Bladesworn, I really like the idea of those specs. I don't have that much to say about Vindicator, but in the reveal trailer they said, it does not dodge, and then you have a lot of dodges, you have a lot of evades, and you have endurance regen increased, and then it's like, okay, look, so I am dodging like a lot. It's like Mirage in PvP. Oh, I have 1 dodge, but actually I don't. I have like 50 dodges. But yeah, I don't have much to add about Vindicator, to be honest.
I mean, it was technically true. They said like they leap into battle instead of dodging. I mean, that is true. They leap into battle instead of dodging. I was hoping for the 0 dodge build, right? Finally, finally we've achieved true balance. Mirage still to OP with 1, okay, and then boom, you got to reduce it down to 0 to truly get that balance there. Actually, it's pretty darn interesting. And this is something I want to talk about later after we've kind of gone over these specializations in general. But I really get the sensation that once again we're getting a little bit gatekept by Path of Fire in this regard. I love all of the design on these specializations, and that is actually what I would praise, maybe more so than anything else on these compared to the first set, is that I think there's a lot of very interesting design, a bit more flavorful design, particularly with regards to the traits. But there are definitely a few things that are a little bit patchy here, there as well. I mean, Nike, do you have any Vindicator hot takes for us? Do you want to?
Yeah. I'm going to preface everything I say in this tea time that we've seen the specs, like seen what they look like, but we haven't played them yet. So I have like a guess that everything we're going to say today is going to age incredibly poorly. So I just want to let the future YouTube comments know ahead of time that we are very prepared for the fact that everything we say is likely to be incredibly wrong in about 2 days.
And memed on, yes.
Yeah. So anything spicy we say is going to be subject to revision in 2 days.
What if it's right?
Everything I said is wrong, it will in fact be right because I'm prefacing it.
I like that. So you've covered yourself there. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Perfect.
That's smart.
Vindicator, I don't know. I think it's cool. It like I would say if Willbender is like a 2 out of 10 on like design creativity, I would say Vindicator is like a solid like 5.5 to 6. I think the flip-flopping skills, like with the different modes, is like really cool. I think there's like a lot of stuff you can do, and I think it's going to have a very complicated DPS rotation for the like full like try hard like Snow Crow's rotation, because literally every utility skill does damage and every weapon skill seems to like be a DPS increase. So I think that people that really enjoy complicated DPS rotations are going to like it. So I think pretty cool. And I don't know how relevant the cleave is, the 5 target cleave. That could be very relevant or not very relevant. I don't know. But it'll definitely be the meta DPS class for Cold War for power anyway, because of that. So that's good.
Yeah.
And I think the meteor shower thing is cool because now we have another class for large golem benchmarks.
Yep.
You can reset the RNG when one of your when you're benchmarking it and you see one of the things land outside the circle, you just restart. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, it's funny. I actually did. I noticed this when I was watching it, and the chat kind of was like, "What are you talking about, Teapot?" But yeah, the tooltip for I think it's called Eternity's Requiem or something like that. The 5th skill, the Meteor Shower, it actually is literally the tooltip for Meteor Shower, because I noticed that it had a duration 9 seconds on it, which was obviously not the case, but it actually will function identical to a very, very fast Meteor Shower. I really like it because it's at this point ArenaNet is actually trolling the Elementalist mains. Like CMC downstated himself while playing Catalyst, right? To demonstrate some things there, and now they actually give Meteor Shower to Rev, but it's instant cast as well, right? Or more or less instant cast. You just cast it and then bam, away you go. So there's definitely a lot of potential on that weapon, and I actually think, I think you're right, and there's a lot of versatility actually on that kit as well, which is maybe like one of the things that's slightly concerning to an extent, actually, because I think if we've learned anything from Path of Fire is that when you have an elite specialization that just does too much, you are in a pretty terrifying spot, right? Like that's when stuff can really start to get messed up. And you look at that Legendary Alliance stance, and this, I agree with Nike. It's super cool. So just to explain the Legendary Alliance stance that you get when you play the Vindicator, you actually basically get a 2-for-1 deal. You have access to Archimeros and Saint Victor abilities. So you start out by using Archimeros abilities, and when you use that, it flips over to the other one. And these actually have very short cooldowns, by the way. Like they're about 10 seconds a pop approximately. So you can alternate between these two skills rotating around. Revenant now has 3 heal skills skills, which is incredibly funny. And you can also reset your cooldowns with a trait as well. Like, there is a lot going on there. And those abilities are good as well. Like, you have this big AoE heal with the Saint Victor abilities, the heal skill and the elite skill. And even though the elite skill is a weird skill for Saint Victor because it basically kills you and makes you can't get healed, but you can like double pop it for an instant AoE heal there as well. There's a lot of like baked in group support on this build. It kind of reminds me, it's weird that we're talking about Meteor Shower existing on this toolkit with the Greatsword. It actually feels a lot like Tempest almost, right? To me. Because, you guys remember when Air Overload was 5 targets, right? Well, you've got 5-target Greatsword. Remember when Wash the Pain Away was like an actually insane ability that healed everyone to full, right? Well, you kind of have that now with Legendary Alliance Stance, right? It feels a lot like, they've added like all the elements, like, please give us staff back, and they're like, oh yeah, play Vindicator, right? They've said, you know what,
heavy armor too, so the Reddit LE flares can't like complain about being downstate so much.
I think it's a very interesting elite spec that I think it's got a lot of potential too. It's one of those ones that I think it's one of the first ones, the elite specs, that I think actually has different kind of build paths, because I am expecting a very strong support build to come out of Vindicator. It'll be weird though, because it won't really have boons. It will only have like raw healing and barrier, but I just don't. I struggle to
make alacrity too.
Because you can do salvation, right? So you can do 5-man alacrity. Yeah, you can do 5-man alac.
Big regen.
Yeah, and regen and stuff. Yeah, and vigor and stuff. So you have a little bit of boon access, but in that barrier dodge, I cannot wait to see how that scales. I'm just imagining it. If you're in full Harrier gear, every time you dodge, you give 5 people like a 5,000 heal and maybe like a 4K barrier, and you can do that with 50 endurance. Okay? And you get half of that back immediately. Then you have vigor uptime from being a rev or having something else in your group that's giving you vigor. I kind of struggle to see that not being like at least good as a cheese spec in PvE for like raids and stuff, because barrier is insane, right? But
like stuff like the Doom Soul Split, you can
just dodge.
Like if you don't have any scourges in your group, you just have the 2 Vindicators dodge, and then your group is like good to go.
Yeah. I have this vision of stuff like that happening, it just being absolutely insane, and you can also play DPS, right? Or even
I imagine it will bench 40-something K DPS out of the box.
Yeah,
like it's hard to, because like you'll have sword Shiro on swap or dwarf. I'm not sure which will be better, but it's gonna bench ridiculously good on swap, guaranteed.
Yeah. It will definitely be a very, very powerful build, and I think it will be a fun build to play as well. It doesn't. What I really want to praise about Vindicator, and I guess this round of elite specs, is they look like they have really fun mechanics, right? The Vindicator mechanics look pretty cool. Like the weapon looks fun to use, the legend is definitely fun to use, and even the dodges, right? Like I think they've done a good job of balancing this modify the dodge roll mechanic, which is very hard to do, I think, and they've pulled it off pretty well, I think, by increasing the endurance. So you instead of having like one dodge that's 50, you'll have one that's 50 or 100 or 150. I think that's rather good, actually, a good implementation for the way they've set this up, and it all looks fun, and it doesn't look totally broken, right? And hey, maybe I'm gonna have to eat those words on Tuesday, but it doesn't look like it's gonna fundamentally annihilate the game. I think it's probably going to be overtuned, but it being overtuned is not a problem. Like, quite the opposite, right? I think you kind of want these elite specs to be overtuned. You want these things to come out and it's 40k DPS. So everyone's like, whoa, this is fun, right? Let's go ahead and play Bladesworn. Let's play Vindicator, play Catalyst. This crazy new build that's coming out. And then you can kind of tune it a little while after that.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much. I mean, Willbender had some clunky sort of rotation stuff, like things that had weird aftercasts and cast times that maybe shouldn't have. But I wonder how much of that people might have overlooked if it was benching 39k instead of 33k. Like how much of that would have been like something people would have stomached.
Yeah.
As we know, DPS is the only thing that matters in Guild Wars 2. There's
That's true.
Nothing else that's relevant.
That is true. There is no such thing.
33k DPS compared to 39k makes the class completely unplayable.
Yeah, might as well just delete the character if you have
Yep,
one.
100%.
If you can't impress people with your big DPS, is there really any point in playing? I don't think so, to be honest. I really, really don't think so. Yeah, the 400k damage precast. That that's gonna make the number for Bladesworn really, really funny, right? Like the first number like you get is gonna be insane because you're gonna.
How are you going to? You'll already be in combat, so the golem's already ticking. Like I don't know how.
It's your realistic precast, Nike.
It'll have to be the arena damage or something.
Yeah, you have to somehow find the way, find the precast
damage.
Yeah, you'll have the toggle damage with someone in there healing you.
Yeah,
that's dumb.
It is. It is an interesting one to talk about. Like, would Willbender have been better received if it was really strongly tuned? I almost feel like the answer to that question is no, though, right? Because Virtuoso,
PvP, yeah, I would have got still shit on by all the PvPers.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even in PvE, right? Like Virtuoso had like some pretty damn big numbers. I believe it was benching around 40k DPS, right? And I think it was still found to be somewhat underwhelming by the community because it didn't really feel like it changed the playstyle enough, or didn't really feel like it brought enough to the table. In the same way that Willbender, I think that's where Willbender really fell down, right? Is that it just didn't have anything special. It kind of felt like Core Guard except worse, right? Is what Willbender ended up feeling like. Whereas I think stuff like Catalyst, even though I kind of suspect Catalyst is not actually that good, it will still feel fun to play because it has an interesting mechanic and like the weapon is really cool. And I guess the utility skills aren't that cool, but the weapon is pretty cool and the mechanic is pretty cool. And that's where I think these new elite specializations really shine. I am fully expecting pretty much all of these builds to kind of get farmed in PvP. I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely hope I'm wrong, by the way, guys. I really do. And I mean that. I would really like to be surprised and that these things are actually really good into the current meta in PvP. And maybe Vindicator. I think Vindicator is like definitely like the shining light here. Like Vindicator could definitely be really scary. It depends how much water CMC was drinking before he did the PvP splits. You know what I mean? Like if he was really well hydrated, then dude, it's gonna be like you're gonna dodge roll 100 barrier, right? Like literally 100 barrier. It's gonna be like absolute garbage, right? Or something like that. If he was maybe a little dehydrated, he was kind of drying out a little bit. Maybe he let some of the numbers slide through, and it's gonna be like, oh, there he is. There's the man himself, right? Okay. Then maybe. Then maybe it's super, super strong. I don't know. We'll have to see. Like, as Nike said, this is definitely very much we need to kind of see how it actually plays out. Like the game is very complicated. It's super difficult to actually determine what exactly the hell is going on, right? And how these things are going to interact with the current metagame. But for PvE, I would expect all of these things to at least have some pretty nice numbers going about the place there as well. But yeah, Vindicator, I'm definitely hyped. Okay, that is going to be a very, very exciting build, in my opinion. I want to see that big 2k range spear, right?
I want to see the support build.
Yeah,
the support build, because my thing has always been with Rev. I don't care about the DPS build so much with it. I really like the heal tank build where you play both at the same time, and I think it has a lot of potential for that. I think. Well, here's the problem with that is I think the Catalyst tank is just going to be probably the best tank going forward because of the quickness that you can get with the lightning field, and also because you get so much free stats. And if you play Celestial Gear with it, I think Celestial Gear is just too strong. You're going to actually have a proper DPS tank that does quickness like Power Chrono, but you can just play like Omega DPS Mesmer instead. And then you can still have like really good damage Elementalist tank. So I think that's what's going to end up happening. And I think that the Vindicator tank will have the potential to be really, really cool and really, really fun. I just don't think it'll see any play because, as we all know, DPS is all that matters in Guild Wars 2. It's the only thing that matters. Doesn't matter how fun or cool something is.
Yeah. You know what? That's a really good point actually on the tanking thing, because you have a block right on Greatsword. I think Greatsword 4 is a pretty long block, and it does more damage. That in World versus World is going to be insane.
Yeah. Big money. That's cash. Big money right there. One shot the whole Zerg.
You have to compete with the Willbender, who's also doing the same thing.
That's true with the Shattered Aegis. Yeah. Like one-shotting everyone, yeah. And we haven't even talked about those, the World versus World, actually. I think that there's a lot of potential. I think there's a good amount of potential for these specs, actually, or at least for Vindicator, once again, in World versus World. Because, again, it turns out that having 5 targets is really fucking good. Having a giant AoE meteor shower, yeah, that's probably pretty damn good for World versus World, right? And there, right, being able to dodge that much as well. And honestly, this is terrifying. Like, imagine Vindicator, and you're running, like, the barrier dodge, and you get the renew. You're using the trait that gives you 25 endurance back. So you have insane evade uptime. You're burying your team. In between dodges, you can like spam damage. You can spam AoE damage out there as well. And you're then using a stamina sigil with old energy sigils, like unnerfed energy sigils as well. With stamina sigil, you have infinite dodges, like running around killing everyone, right? And just having infinite evade. You can even run the damage dodge, right? Although I think, once again, I do have to kind of give a lot of credit here to the skills team. I think it was very intelligent that they made like the damage dodge need 150 endurance. Even though it does give you a long evade, it does mean that it's going to be kind of hard to abuse that. And people also need to remember that, particularly for PvP, having only one dodge, even if it's a short recharging dodge like Mirage, is actually a pretty big deal. Why is that? Because it means that whenever you dodge roll, the enemy, the opponent, knows that you can't dodge again for a while, right? It's actually very transparent, like where you are in your ability to evade and your ability. It's kind of how you play against Mirages, right? When you see a Mirage use a dodge, you know, okay, right? They can't dodge for a little while now. Yeah, they might have other defenses like the Vindicator block or Mirage Distortion or something like that, but at the end of the day, they cannot dodge, right? They have no evade uptime there as well. So it's pretty well balanced, right? It's well done. Okay, it is definitely a good time with the way they've actually set this up.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about Vindicator is that both of the Archimedes and St. Victor are on the same thing. I would have rather just had 2 different legends. I don't like that they flip back and forth, and I don't like that the button is there to... I don't like that the button resets them. I would kind of prefer, personally, if the button would swip, like the F2, if it would swap over from one to the other, instead of just resetting them, because it feels kind of weird the way it is right now. That's a little bit of a turn-off for me, but maybe some people will prefer it. It just doesn't... It's not very interesting to me the way it currently is.
It is definitely weird, and that is something that we, you know, when we talk about Catalyst later, we'll also get into. It affects something that you don't have all the time, right? So when you use your F2, it doesn't do anything outside of give you some endurance back unless you're using the Legendary Alliance stance, right? Like it doesn't do anything. Whereas, you know, with other mechanics, it's typically, it doesn't matter if you actually use the legend or if you use the utility skills. It, you know, it will regardless work either way, right? We're seeing, you know, that, I think that's kind of one of the first things where we've actually seen that level of interaction, right? Where your F2 ability or a profession mechanic that you have is contingent on you slotting a certain utility skill, right? That's something that I don't think we've really seen before that much. In a mechanic. That is definitely a little bit weird, but then again, who knows? Maybe it's a good idea. We'll find out. We'll find out when we get there, I guess.
Yeah, they could just force you into both of the new legends. You only get to use those 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I think that would be fine, because I think it's going to be a good class. I think this was already touched on. I think it's going to be a good class for people that love hyper complicated DPS rotations, between like switching from either Shiro or Jalis for the hammers, and switching from Greatsword on the sword, and then switching legends and doing the cooldowns and stuff. I think it's just going to be a better Elementalist, honestly. I think it just absolutely will be. I think it's going to be the ultimate camp soloer in World versus World. You'll just instantly take over a camp. Like, it'll just be free camps all day long. You can just flip them. You can have a commander tag that's only one Vindicator, and it will just take camps. But I I don't know that. I think the only way I would touch it personally, if the support build is really cool, I'm not interested in it for DPS, even though I think it's got a lot of potential for DPS and it'll be really cool. I just want to play Boon Scrapper. That's my DPS build. I don't care. I don't care about any other build in the game for damage other than Boon Scrapper.
The only thing Brazil cares about now is DPS uptime.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Boona.
Yep.
And Boon uptime. And well, I feel like I keep getting distracted. I want to talk about specific things, but then I get immediately distracted by general points again. What do you guys make of the fact that we aren't seeing a lot of general boon classes? And when I say general boon classes, I mean stuff like Tempest, right? Stuff like Druid, right? These things that are kind of providing the full suite of boons in a way. Although, having said that, now that I'm thinking about that...
We have enough of those.
Yeah, well, yeah, do we have enough of those? Or is it because they realize that this stuff is kind of insane and they probably shouldn't add it? Okay, like, what do we...
Definitely both.
A lot of self-buffing, though, which is something that's very important for the 99% of players that don't raid or do like CM fractals.
Only
like,
do Octavine South.
Yeah, the people that run around open world and that's like, or do story and that, or like do like Drizzlewood, like self-buffing is very relevant. Like, like looking at the DPS of different builds in a totally solo environment, like you can kind of tell like what would be it, like certain things are obviously going to be way better than others in a solo environment. And it so happens that almost like that was like one of the big complaints about Weaver is that it had like almost no self-buffing capability. So like in the open world, people were running around with like no might, no nothing, and just like doing kind of noodle damage. But these specs all look like they have reasonable self-buffing, and including like the ones from the first round that we saw.
Yeah, like Virtuos and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that that's something they actually want to add to, say, core specializations and kind of spread it out a little bit, maybe? Because if you think it's, say, Druid, for example, and maybe this is not the best example of the pinnacle of balance, but you could, even if you go into nature magic, right, you take one trait and now all your spirits give all the boons, and that means that from now until the end of time, every ranger will be forced to run literally 5 spirits because it turns out that boons are pretty good when you apply them to 10 people. Didn't they want to look at core specializations and say, okay, right, Warrior Tactics now has a bit more boon access. Or look at, say, Thief Shadow Arts. Okay, that combined with the new Thief spec is going to make it a bit of a more well-rounded support or something like that, right? Is that the direction you think we're going to be going in the future, as opposed to, say, having something like Firebrand? Because you take Firebrand, right? And all of a sudden, your tomes, everything built into Firebrand is providing the boons, right? Or I would even actually throw Tempest under the bus here as well, right? Because look at Tempest. Tempest is providing all of these boons, right? You have Might on your Fire Overload, Protection on Earth Overload, Regen and Vigor from the Aura trait, right? You kind of, all of that is now built into that there as well. There's a lot going on there.
As well.
Yeah, and you have that boon extension, exactly right? It's a very packed toolkit. Do they want to say, right, if you take Catalyst, you get quickness. And then you would say have other things with the other trait lines that would then provide the other support, right? I mean, Ellie in a way is a pretty good example, right? Because you have Air for Swiftness and Fury. You have Earth that's got some protection on it. And Fire can actually give Might, right? Because whenever you're tuned to Fire, boom, you like destroy your own Might stacks to give other people Might stacks and stuff like that. And you can blast a fire field so you can have fun. So that seems like maybe an approach they would go for. What do you guys think about that?
I don't know. I don't know that like they want to. I don't know that they want to pigeonhole things. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to go, okay, this is what you do for this. This is what you do for this. And like, I don't think they want to set the meta in PvE at least, where they're like, okay, here's this, here's that, and then make a group around these fixed things. And that's sort of the direction they were going. Cause like for a while it was like every group has to have a warrior, every group has to have 2 chronos, and every group has to have a druid. And there was no deviation from that for 5 years. Yeah. And then they were like, okay, here's some alternatives that you can do with Firebrand and Renegade. I think they just kind of want to give us a bunch of pieces that are like not, and let us like figure out how they fit together. I don't know that they necessarily have a master plan about that.
Okay.
I mean, Firebrand, I'm just it needs to go away. It's just it does everything, and it makes CMC. If you're watching right now, you know what? Actually, I'm challenging you right now. I'm challenging you this Tuesday when the patch goes live. This is a change you make. I'll drink 1,000 water bottles on stream if you make this change.
Oh.
Firebrand base pages go from 5 to 3, and traded they go from 8 to 5.
Or just get rid of the Aegis from the heal skill.
Yeah, and get rid of the Aegis from the heal. Or the heal only gives Aegis and it doesn't heal at all. Actually do that. It only gives Aegis and there's no healing.
Make a self Aegis only.
Yeah, self Aegis only.
Like one of these changes would work.
Add a GCD to the tome, so you go into one tome and you can't go into the others for 10 seconds. You're locked out.
Or just delete Firebrand.
Is that the way you really want to go about nerfing it though? Because in my opinion, like the way you nerf Firebrand is you just say, you know what, you don't do very much damage anymore. You would nerf the damage really hard. Ashes of the Just probably needs to get deleted and completely reworked.
Completely take it away.
It's just a burst Condi skill just doesn't really make any sense. It shouldn't really be that way. And just nerf the damage like really hard. I think that if you attack the utility of Firebrand, you're just kind of making Core Guardian, except you've got, you're really into reading, I think Firebrand should stay as Firebrand and Scourge should stay as Scourge. You should just pay a very heavy price for being a Scourge. Because what's actually good about Firebrand, right? Like, why are we so concerned right now about these Path of Fire specs? Well, we're so concerned about them because their profession mechanics are insanely good, right? Like, they're insanely strong. Like, Shades are an amazing mechanic. Renegade is just an amazing mechanic, right? Right Drill, pretty good, by the way. Firebrand is just very, very good. I don't actually think attacking this part of it is actually the way to go because you're going to eventually just like shave it down until it's like so unfun to play. I think what needs to be I don't think like deleting Firebrand from the game is the way to go. Like, would Firebrand be really, really overpowered if it only did, let's say, 30k DPS? Probably not. Like, it would still be really strong.
What would the quickness build do?
Probably more like. On it, well, I mean,
15. If it did 15, it would be fine.
Right. Hot take, by the way. Absolute, hot take right now. When you give quickness to 5 people in this game, you don't pay nearly enough of a price, okay? But let's just say you do, it's not even close. Like, I give quickness and I lost, 5k DPS. Oh, the horror. But I give quickness to 4 people, including 5, including myself, right? It's insane. But let's just say that with the current balance, quickness does 25k DPS or something. So you lose 5k DPS. That would actually be pretty good. Under the assumption that a top DPS spec is doing 40k damage, 40k DPS. I think at that point, okay, you've now paid basically a 10k DPS cost to be a Firebrand, right? And have Aegis. That's probably overtuned, by the way, but let's not even get into that. It would be the same thing with Scourge, right? Why is Scourge so overpowered? Well, Scourge is so overpowered because right now there is 0 trade-off, right? Okay, basically you do as much damage as a Weaver, okay, but you're also ranged, and you have loads of support, right? And you have 20k HP, and you have godlike utility because it turns out that Necromancer utility skills are really good. And taking an actual instant revive skill is a DPS increase on Scourge for some ungodly reason. Right? That's now a meta build there as well.
Well, let's not forget too that these 2 specs have in common Barrier and Aegis, which are in PvE where you know exactly when the attacks are coming and what the mechanics are. Incredibly overpowered in PvE.
Well, they just play into the way the combat system works, right? It turns out that active mitigation, or rather that mitigation, is incredibly strong and very undervalued, right? In the way that in the way that DPS is budgeted for, right? It turns out that having the ability to have this level of utility is insanely good, right? Just having that exist on your build is amazing. right? And you should pay a much heavy price. It kind of makes me suspect that they're probably going to nerf the absolute living hell out of some of the specs before the expansion comes out, because they did that for Heart of Thorns, right? Or rather for Path of Fire. When Path of Fire came out, they were like, you know what? Tempest?
It's a support class.
This always makes me chuckle. No joke. I always laugh when I hear this, because ArenaNet really nerfed Tempest super hard in PvP in particular, actually. Because they were like, we're really worried that Firebrand isn't going to be quite good enough, okay, compared to Tempest. So you know what? We're going to nerf the hell out of Tempest like a few months before the expansion. Just absolutely like annihilate it. Just destroy it, right? And then they release fucking Firebrand. Like Firebrand comes out, just destroys the entire metagame. Very nice. Okay, that is that's some content, right? That's some marketing. Definitely got people playing the new Firebrand spec, that's for sure, right? Yeah, oh my god. Yeah, on release, there's so many new frogs in the chat. They probably won't even remember this. Okay, you guys won't even remember the fact that when Firebrand came out in Path of Fire, when you took the trait, Legendary Lore, your auto attacks in Tome 3 gave Aegis to everyone it hit. Okay, like you could literally just like auto attack and spam Aegis the entire time. So you'd be giving Aegis stability and swiftness on every single auto attack. It's like
that's good design. I like that.
Did it have no internal cooldown? That's the trait that gives Aegis when you give stability, right?
Oh no, it's the trait that makes your tome skills better.
Oh, okay.
So it makes your tome skills give a boon, and in tome 1 that you get more burning duration.
Oh, it's quickness on stability, I think. I could be, or yeah, I wasn't playing at launch, so I'm one of the new frogs a little bit.
Yeah. That was the other fun one actually, because on launch when you would use Stand Your Ground, that quickness, each stack of stability would proc that in one tick. So you would apply 5 stacks of stability and it would proc the trait 5 times. So you would give like 15 seconds of quickness to 10 people. It's pretty good.
Jeez.
Pretty good skill, right? That was a bug though, right? That was definitely a bug to be fair. So they did fix it.
Firebrand is still bugged now, so you know.
Really? I mean, why is it bugged?
Well, it was more of a joke to say that it's kind of busted, but it's also bugged because of mantras to have an actual bug.
Yes. You know, speaking of bugs that have been around for a while, okay, I've had enough. Okay, we're getting very sidetracked here. We're going to talk about Bladesworn next, but just in this like brief sidetrack, okay? Because, you know, Vindicator, that's old news. Bladesworn, guys, is in. But anyway, one thing, I want this bug fixed, by the way, because I was playing Reaper, and it made me very, very angry. All right. Slow cancels the effect of quickness, and it shouldn't be this way. I don't think that makes sense, right? So, picture this scene. You're a Reaper. You're using your perfectly balanced ability to have permanent quickness and shroud, and you're going crazy. But oh no, someone applies slow to you for whatever reason. Well, the slow takes precedence over the quickness, and actually, instead of kind of canceling out, right, because slow and quickness are kind of opposites, right? So you do something kind of like, oh, poof, nothing happens. That's not what happens. What happens is that even if you have quickness, you still get slowed no matter what. And someone has I've been reliably informed, this is the same with weakness too, right? So if you have vigor and you get weakness, the effect of your vigor is gone now, right? Have fun. Okay, enjoy that. So all that vigor you work really hard for to get that 50% extra endurance regeneration. Well, if you get any weakness, the vigor doesn't work while you have weakness on it. So there you go. Yeah, it was Grimjack, guys. It's true. Grimjack enabled this because he is the Guild Wars 2 encyclopedia and the only good player in any game mode. So he knows this stuff. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, and chill cancels alacrity as well, which also doesn't really make sense, right? Like why? And you know, why does this not make sense, guys? Well, simple. Would you expect 1 stack of vulnerability to cancel protection? No, you wouldn't. Would you expect cripple or chill to cancel swiftness? No, you wouldn't. And it doesn't, by the way. Okay, that's not how it works. Therefore, I'm saying now on this TeaTime, we need to get that fixed. Let's go. That's been in the game since launch, by the way. Just saying.
Yep, it has.
Speaking of Bladesworn,
hit me.
I think it's really cool. It reminds me of Berserker whenever Berserker launched. It's just like, oh shit, this is the class everyone's going to play. Like, this is badass. It was Bladesworn was so good it got Renji to switch mains.
That's not hard.
That's how. Yeah, I guess not. But it looks really damn cool. It looks like it's probably the least clunky of all of them, and especially when you compare Harbinger is just you're basically just punching and turning green. That's what Harbinger does. You punch with both hands and you turn green and kill yourself. That's the mechanic. Willbender, the mechanic is you have movement skills that lock you in place at the end of the movement skills. And everything you do on Bladesworn is a new mechanic that's really cool. And you can use the same skills as much as you want because it's an ammo system, and you can just refill your ammo with the elite skill. And it's just like hyper energy, mega energy. It's mega anime, mega weeb. You've got so Reaper was super hyped because Gravedigger did big numbers on the hit, and you could just spam it over and over. It had no cooldown. And that was what everyone cared about with Reaper. It was hella cool. And this is the opposite. It's you wait for 5 seconds and then you hit for he had on I think it was Commanders, I think, and he hit for 370k damage. And I think CMC said the most I've seen was 470k, which let's just be honest, it could probably go to over 500k. If it hit for 550k, it wouldn't surprise me. If it hit for that much, it really wouldn't surprise me. So you have to think about that also in terms of overall DPS. It could be a DPS loss overall because spamming out little numbers really, really fast often is better than just a flashy big number once every few seconds. It's usually about the DPS, not the big damage hits. So I don't know, but it doesn't change the fact that it's cool as all hell, and it looks like it's just going to be really fun to play, no matter how good or bad it is. I think people are going to play it anyways, and I think actually I might need to correct myself here. I think that the big damage on the hit is going to override the DPS is the most valuable thing in Guild Wars 2, because people are going to think they're doing DPS because there's no official DPS meter. They're going to think that they're carrying their squad with Bladesworn damage. They're not going to understand it. It's going to be like channeled skills on 100 blades all over again.
Or they'll play Nomad's gear and still hit for like 90k and be like, well, look at me. I'm a full tank and I hit for 90k. Obviously, this is the best build in the game.
True.
It's going to be... Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm good. I
was going to say, it's going to be a huge switch up from Warrior. And, they were really talking about this on the stream, how they sort of renamed Adrenaline, right? Because it played out so differently that there's no point in even keeping it the same. It will be confusing to keep it the same. So they renamed this entire thing over to Flow instead. And they've got some fun trait design there as well, particularly the Grandmasters, I think, are really cool. But it's going to be interesting to see how disrupted you get. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Which Grandmaster do you think is good in PvE?
Oh, it's super interesting, actually. Like
the one that halves the bullets.
Yeah, I almost feel like the one that
might be less damage. It depends. If you can spam 2, maybe even 3 attacks with Burst Mastery, then it's probably a DPS increase. But like,
the thing is that
the big smash.
You don't get the big. It might even be like situational, depending on what boss fight you're on. Actually, because on something like Keep Construct, with that burn phase, you want like the really big damage. You're just gonna, if you have like 6 Bladesworn, you just actually insta phase it, right? It's gonna be actually ridiculous. Like do 5 orbs just for no reason, just so you can actually just cause the boss to get another bug added to the list, right? And just like see what happens if you like nuke him immediately. But the other thing is that I think Brazil was very, very correct here, because you don't have burst skills. Like, this is going to be a very different version of Warrior. Yeah, you have the Gun Saber, and maybe the Gun Saber does so much damage that kind of makes up for not having burst skills. But I think people really forget like just how juicy stuff like, let's say, Decapitate on Berserker really is. This is a very key part of the way you do your damage, right? Is by like, boom, refreshing that burst skill over and over again. It's like spamming it over and over. You don't have that. You don't even have regular burst whatsoever. The only thing you have is the Gun Saber, your weapon skills, utility skills, of course, and then the dragon trigger there as well. So it's going to be an interesting one, right? To see how that actually plays out. The gun saber might just have so much, must have like giga numbers on it that it doesn't really matter. And obviously you can do all this crazy stuff with like reloading everything, like reloading all your ammo with the elite skill and stuff like that. But I think it's fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, actually. You're going to be montaging people really hard with this. There are going to be some ridiculous clips in PvP, I think, in World vs. World, where you're just one-shotting people. If you can find a way to kind of get in combat, build up all your flow, and then get stealth. So, you could get into combat on like an ambient mob or something like that, like in World vs. World, get stealthed up, so get full flow, get stealthed up, and walk over to a bunch of people and just drag and trigger them all and just like one-shot them. Maybe even get people, buffing you as well, getting 25.
No downstate weekend.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun with no downstate weekend, right? It's gonna be insane. And I can honestly even see some like really meme shit in Zergs as well because of the unblockable and unblindable trait. It's gonna be maybe a little bit hard to pull it off because you can't move, and obviously World Buzzword is very movement based. But if you can pull it off, you can maybe like just kill a bunch of people with it, like just a bam, like there you go, 25 might. You've got all the boons up. Bam, like wallop them pretty good, right? And just like smash everyone completely, particularly if you do that coordinated. But I don't know, like I know that the number is super, super impressive, but I hate to be boring here. It might not actually be as insane as people are thinking. I think it will be very insane in certain areas though, because of the way that Guild Wars 2 PvE works. Like there's so much bursting involved, the Wraith bursting build, right? As made by the great man Nemesis a long time ago, guys. Okay, big burst on that core Necromancer Wraith build. But it's going to make fractals look very, very silly, I think. It'll probably make certain raid bosses look like a complete meme as well. And it'll be some PvP montage stuff. But I'm very curious to see the actual sustained DPS it can produce.
I wouldn't be surprised if the DPS number, like there's no number between 27,000 and 47,000 that would surprise me for the Bladesworn. Like I could see like it being very, very OP. And but like it also would not surprise me at all if it couldn't even do 30,000. Like that just wouldn't shock me.
And then people want it to be buffed after that. They want the F2 or whatever to hit for 1 million damage.
It was like Deadeye, right? At the start of Path of Fire, Deadeye was there.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
you actually will be able to hit for 1 million damage. So the Risen,
places, for sure.
The Risen Berserkers and Ra have 0 armor. You'll be able to hit those for 1 million damage.
And you'll be able to hit on like key
on
constructs.
KC.
Yeah.
On KC you can hit for over 1,500,000.
Dredge, the Dredge power suit and fractals. Can you imagine how big that number? 10 million damage.
I did the Demos Signet will also be pretty big. Every time Demos gets a Signet, they just fade.
That is insane.
What if the counter doesn't even go that high? What if the counter, like on Dredge Power Suit or like the Signet, it just like rolls over and it just only displays zeros? Could you imagine?
I mean,
CMC, have you tested this?
It's going to be satisfying. It's going to be a very satisfying number right there. It really is. Okay. Oh yeah, you have falling damage numbers here, so that I think they can handle giant numbers, huge numbers there as well.
I think for PvE for Bladesworn, the thing that people kind of forget about is there's the trait that allows you to re-enter Dragon Trigger as long as you have like 10 overflowing flow, right?
Yeah.
If people can find a way to make that maybe not permanent, because maybe that's a little bit too much copium there, but if you are allowed to use that twice or 3 times even, and then after that, you can use maybe run axe off and pistol off and whatever ends up being with maybe ammunitions and projectiles and stuff like that. After that, that it's come off cooldown, which is like 8 seconds, 10 seconds, which is affected by alacrity, I believe. You can do that again 3 times. That's a lot of damage. That's not a joke anymore. Like, I think it will depend if you go with like the mega charge that actually one-shot stuff on some encounters, like maybe KC. Maybe if the group DPS is not that high, you still go for the one that it's like half the charges, but you can use it 3 times. But even this is something that I would like to see even more. you could maybe go for Bladesworn on bosses that are very, very bursty, and maybe still go Berserker on ones that maybe have a little bit of extra sustained DPS. But you'll be seeing like a mix of both rather than just one take over the other spec forever for like years and years and years, like we always see, basically.
No, that will be ideal, and that's a very good point to bring up. You don't want to see, oh, this is the spec you play in raids now, right? You want it to be more situational, and I think that's good. And I think it's really, in a way, that I know the number is insane, like 350,000 damage in one attack. Like this style of thing is good. It's actually, it's funny. When Power Soul Beast got nerfed, this actually made me really sad because I thought that Power Soul Beast existing was actually kind of cool because it had such a different DPS curve. Just some context here, Power Soul Beast was this it still is, right? But it was this ultra burst build, right? You stack up all these modifiers with Sikkim and stuff and just annihilate stuff, right? Really, really quickly. But this actually got nerfed really hard. Really hard, pretty hard. It got nerfed pretty hard. It's still perfectly a good build.
And then it got buffed a little bit afterwards,
Yeah, but I feel like it was nerfed the wrong way. And this is something that I kind of see a lot in the way that Guild Wars 2 nerf stuff. Like, you kind of nerf stuff so everything kind of plays out the same. Well, I think it would be really interesting if Power Soul Beast had this really high spike damage, but its sustained DPS was lower than other power builds, right? And maybe some other builds have a lower DPS number, but have very high sustained DPS. In a way, we kind of have certain builds like this already. You can look at stuff like Hollow, right? And Dragon Hunter. These builds, well, DH maybe not the best example, actually, but actually neither Hollow is as well. Okay, listen, guys, burst damage is a little out of whack, okay? I'm just going to say, I guess Thief is the best example, right? Thief is, not super bursty, I guess. Unless you have magnetic bombs, then maybe it is. Okay, but, never mind, guys. Turns out power damage, pretty good in Guild Wars 2. But you gotta get the idea, right? I think it would be super cool if you had these things that didn't necessarily have this up and down big spike, right? You had a more consistent amount of defense, or less bursty or more bursty, and that's kind of where conditions play into it as well, right? Conditions should be that really slow ramp up, and then you have different variants of power builds. Some are more bursty, some are less bursty. I think that's really interesting because then you have this. Oh, here you want to play this spec. Here you want to play that spec. Here, it kind of gives you more options because, I mean, look. I don't want to bring back too many bad memories for any of the PvE boys here, but I think how long was it that Power Chrono was played on literally every boss? even some Matthias and Lagos, right? You would still play Power Chrono.
Honestly, I don't know.
Every boss.
It's a very long time that you just kind of forget about it. It's like you're playing a different game, single player, and the main character you are playing is Power Chrono. There's no way to change that, right?
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that I think you really want to avoid. And this is where homogenization is a big problem. You really don't want to have every profession be the same. You want them all to do something different in a weird kind of way, and that's exactly what Bladesworn is, right? Bladesworn, there's nothing like that. Okay, in the game right now, there really isn't. Yeah. Well,
we're glad it's the only one like that.
I don't know. I've got to praise Ada. It's so creative, right? And look, guys, I want to make this super clear. I am not a weeb. I have never watched anime. I'm not an anime character. Not into that stuff, guys, whatsoever, right? There's no weeb stuff here. Damn, Bladesworn, it looks sick. All the animations are amazing. All the skill icons are really cool. All the traits are really cool, right? The idea of it is really cool. Gun Saber is really cool. I don't know.
It's not weeb because in the new Matrix movie, there'll probably be a gun saber. So therefore we can say it's not weeb and that it's from the Matrix.
Wouldn't that just make the Matrix weeb though?
No. Matrix was first. It was from 1999. Anime was invented in 2007.
Wait, is that true?
I don't think that's even.
I alleged it.
Close to true.
That's not true.
Isn't anime really old? Relatively speaking.
I mean, there's Japanimation. Is it the same as anime?
Boy, I have such a good joke to make right now, but I can't make it. It's so good. I'll have to tell you after the stream. But I'm pretty sure that's incredibly wrong, Nike.
I know. I just made it up.
I think I know what the joke is, and I'm
You don't. I promise you don't.
Okay.
Anyway, so about the Bladesworn, there's one thing that we're not touching on, and it's the aesthetics. The fact that you are stuck on a weapon that you can't change the skin of, and it doesn't have particularly any flashy particle effects whatsoever, is like very counter to like Guild Wars 2's sort of entire endgame philosophy. Like, I know that people are like, haha, well, NG's been that way since day one. You go into kits and you lose your legendary. It's like, okay, but they fixed that with Hollowsmith, where Hollowsmith, yes, you're locked into this kit and you lose your weapons, but Hollowsmith is like the flashiest thing in the game. Every like auto attack is like filling the screen with light explosions and like has like a really cool like particle trail and all of that. But yeah, I mean,
and
Bladesworn's weapon is very bland. It's like, imagine if Hollow was like the character had like a crappy little flashlight in its hand, and like it swung the flashlight with no particle effects whatsoever. Like people would be like, Hollowsmith sucks.
They kind of add to that. It's like NG, when you enter a kit and you have a legendary equipped, the kits like grenades, for example, they have projectile animations, right?
Predator
and
grenade.
Bladesworn doesn't have this. Like when you do, well, I mean, I think it doesn't because there has never been a slash legendary animation before. But they could at least add something like that. Or maybe they could add the effect of the legendary that you have around that blade. Or maybe just make the blade not look like a, I don't know, like a Black Lion skin, I guess. Like they can make it look a little bit flashier or just change how it looks like.
Like,
I mean,
make the blade like glow a little bit.
Yeah, it's like
have a trail or something. Yeah, like what?
Like bright green or something like that. That could be cool.
Ooh. Wait, isn't it powered by amber though? It wouldn't be green.
Yeah,
right.
like make it like
read the lore now.
Orange.
Read the fucking lore, man.
I don't read the lore, dude. I'm ERPing, right? That's the only lore I.
Yeah, even if you don't like flashy, like the accent says, like it's still at the end of the day, like just like a brown sword that that's all you're going to see when you play the spec.
It does have some glow to it though. You know, you've got kind of fire coming out of it and shit. You got some, you know, orange glows and stuff. And I think that how would you feel about the suggestion that Mela made, the legendary angle? So you know, if you have Exordium, right, and you like, you know, say you're on Exordium, then you go to the gun saber and you use your dragon trigger, it like bam, like fires out loads of Exordiums or something. Like, is that good? Is that good?
That'd be fine. That would be that would be fine, but I don't know if that's even the case. So,
well, it isn't. Well, I mean, who knows? I guess we don't know. I guess we'll find out on Tuesday because there weren't any legendaries being used in the little demo there. But I imagine that will be pretty much the case.
I'm somewhat concerned about that. Like, it definitely lessens the appeal of the spec if you don't have any sort of. Like,
it doesn't have to be flashy, right? It just
it does actually.
A little touch.
No, this is Guild Wars 2 we're talking about.
Have you seen the Steam commercial? It has to be flashy.
How does Hollow handle this?
It's flashy as fuck.
You don't get, but you don't get legendary effects, right? Do you? If you have rifle equipped and you use photon blitz, it doesn't get the projectiles, right?
No, it doesn't.
But it's just as good as a legendary.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Yeah,
you turn into a legendary, basically.
Yeah, it has a pretty cool skin. So I guess that's how.
It changes color with how hot you get.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Hollowsmith, you start out yellow and then you turn red as it goes on.
It's way cooler.
Yeah, it honestly is.
It would be sweet if the gunblade, as you're getting more flow, changes like a color or something. Ooh. That would be pretty fucking sick.
I got
it's like you can see the person charging up, and it's like, let's do this. Like, come on.
You get a like glint legend when you swap, and there's a dragon that comes over you. Whenever you go gunblade mode, there's this like big red dragon that comes out above your head when you're charging
that's
it
too
out.
anime. I don't want.
And when you're at
that's
max
what I was
charge,
about to say.
It breathes a flame. It
like
breathes
they might
a
not
flame.
have done
I'll
that.
just go back to Berserker. See ya.
They might not have done that because it's too anime.
Are you guys seriously advocating for more visual noise in this game?
Yes,
like,
100%.
More than what we already have. Like one of the biggest complaints, and you want more.
You need a tell for it that's unmistakable. If you're going to get hit by 500,000 damage, you need a tell.
I mean, I don't need like crazy animation like that. I just want my character's weapon to look cool and not like a starter weapon that I got in Queensdale from the vendor.
He said it. I didn't. I held back.
Well, I might have some bad news for you. I don't think they'll I mean, otherwise, look, can you imagine the drama if they started selling Gunblade skins in the gem store? Like, oh, you know,
I suggested that before, that they should sell skins for all different skills. There should be a green meteor shower in the gem store where when you play Staff Ellie, your meteor shower drops like green and black sort of things, and your lava font has like fucking like undead stuff coming out of the ground and doing damage. Like you could have like skins for like every popular skill. Like
I think that'd be best for competitive play.
That's what they do in PoE. Like every skill has like cool like skins, and you could do that in Guild Wars too.
Well, you have
easy money.
You have standard models, so you could just turn it off.
Yeah,
I guess.
So it would be okay. And I imagine actually it would be client side. So you'd only see the skin if you used it, maybe, not if other people used it. Or maybe it would display for everyone. I don't know.
Well, maybe we can just use skin.dll and just change it then.
Oh, skin.dll. Very nice. Okay,
gemstore.dll.
Gemstore.dll gives you everything in the gem store in just one easy install, right? Very nice. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that's something that they will probably never do, though. I mean, I don't know. Like, the engine would probably explode.
They would have already done that if they could have, or if they wanted to. Yeah. Like, it's such easy money that they, like, the time for that would have already happened.
Yeah, I guess so. Well,
but it will be weird. I'll be in full legendary armor with every infusion in the world, but I'll be wielding this Queensdale starter weapon on my Bladesworn.
It's not that bad, is it? Is it really that bad?
It's a few pixels. I mean, the skin has some pixels.
It's not horrible though. It does have a bit of a cool. Is it actually a starting skin? You guys really feel that it's like an actual starting skin?
It's like the skin. It's like the profession skin you get when you unlock the like when you unlock Firebrand and you get like that shitty like axe. Like that they give you, and then then you get like the slightly better version when you do the collection of that axe. But like it's like the shitty starter version of a good weapon.
Wow,
you might agree with me. The Jotun Greatsword skin that you can get at like level 15 is better than the Gunsaber.
The art team is crying right now. You guys are just unleashing.
Well, that's not the worst art asset though.
Well, if you're gonna embrace anime, fucking embrace the fan service part and give me a fucking cool skin.
The Harbinger icons look. I mean, oh boy, the Harbinger icons. The elixirs and the traits. They're all bad. I mean, we shouldn't just be shitting on art. That's not what the TeaTime is. And Harbinger was last time, but it's like I don't think everything has to look amazing. I think it can be fine if some stuff looks fun, like just looks okay. But it's not the best skin they've ever added. That's for sure.
Well, okay. Now I'll try and re-rail this here a little bit. I mean, when it comes to like that's of the icons and all this stuff, I think it is still very much work in progress. And some of the artwork wasn't even done, right? I think Catalyst wasn't done whatsoever. Even the trait line artwork. So I think it's very obvious that a lot of this stuff is work in progress. I imagine they might add more spell effects. They might, change the skins, right? The icons, all that kind of stuff. We'll probably get another pass before the expansion. I mean, bear in mind, and this is something that I probably should have said a little bit earlier here, actually. And when talking about balance, talking about design, talking about everything, right? Is that we're getting a somewhat unprecedented look, a very early look, right, at the elite specializations and at the expansion in general. The expansion does not come out until February 2022. And towards the end of February as well. And obviously, ArenaNet do kind of they take a winter break, obviously. But still, there's a lot of months of development time, really, from now until the expansion. I wouldn't be surprised to see if the version of, say, Harbinger, Willbender, Virtuoso, and even the other elite specializations, particularly these three, have some fairly significant fairly significant changes in the final beta, which I believe is towards the end of November. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them actually change a lot. And I really hope they will, funnily enough. I think it will be good. And, I know that 2 things in a row might not be enough for a pattern. But do you guys think that we're going in order of, like, how polished and how, like, final the elite specs are? So Virtuoso, Harbinger, and Willbender, little bit scuffed, traits, not super good right absolutely. There. Okay. Now we've gone to the second set. The traits are definitely a bit better. Elementals utilities, a little bit scuffed, but trait design is much more interesting. Ability design is very interesting. Like, thematically, they're very, very cool. I mean, are they about to completely unchain for every single... I mean, what I'm trying to ask here is how much water are we going to need, right, for the final preview next month? Is it going to... How much are we going to have to drink?
You won't need anything for Ranger, because Ranger's a trash profession.
You'll need vodka in the water.
Wow. They can just skip right over Ranger.
Wow.
He can be like, we added some new skills and it has like some pet shit, and then just move on to the next spec.
Not even the pet, just a pet shit.
Yeah. We added some pet crap. Let's go.
Oh my god, like
this hatred towards Ranger. And
what's going to happen when Engineer has pet?
I'm scarred from early Guild Wars 2. Well, also because it's a pet class, and as everyone who's played an MMO knows, the pet class attracts the worst players. Like when there's a new MMO and people are like, "What should I play?" And it's a brand new MMO, just came on the market. Oh, what should I play? Oh, this one has a pet. The people that go, oh, this one has a pet. I love that. Invariably, the worst players, like, they're gonna make up the bottom of the community no matter what.
See, the best part...
Same thing for Minion Mancer. Don't get so high on yourselves, chat, because Minion Mancer is only one step up from that. Any new MMO, it's like, oh, I can summon a bunch of minions and have them fight for me. That's like the second worst players in every game.
This is the best part about TeaTime with Nike is that people hate him more than me, so the comments are about him and not me, and that really helps my self-esteem. I mean, that's kind of there is a degree of truth to that though, because if you've ever been in combat, you just know that the Ranger with the longbow and the bear is going to send the enemies away from you. It will happen. It will happen at least once every engagement. The mob will go flying. You'll have just pulled it in with Greatsword 5 on Guardian. You put your symbol down, you cast Whirling Wrath, and the mob goes away. It's been hit by point blank shot, and it flies away. And the bear goes after it, just trotting. This is the bear animation. It just goes tumbling after the mob. Yep.
That is big. That's some good content. Anyway,
Thief is gonna be cool.
Anyway,
yeah,
The Thief will be cool. NGO should be cool.
Engi's gonna be a pet class though, right? It's gonna get that golem pet that you can customize. That's what everyone's talking about.
Kurzik Juggernaut. Build your own Juggernaut. I think
I like the armor idea that we were talking about like yesterday.
It's like Tony Stark, where you pick different utility skills, and then when you go into your Juggernaut, it's different weapon systems are based on the utility skills. That'd be so fucking sick.
That'd be cool as hell.
The NG one, I think we can get before we get to Ellie, because no one cares about Ellie. We can get a little bit of speculation in. Okay, I mean Ellie, come on, guys. No one's going to be playing Ellie when they literally gave you guys Staff Ellie on Vindicator, right? Come on, like what's the point? Ellie is obsolete now. But yeah, before we get to that, because I'm joking, guys. Just, don't kill me, right? Please. Not even in a video game, not even in Minecraft. But yeah, in terms of the speculation for these, there are a few things that have been strongly implied by certain things that have happened, including that right now, if you go in the game and you right-click on, I believe, your Engineer F4 skill, it will actually give you a prompt to rename your pet, which is why a lot of people are thinking that there's going to be a pet spec of some kind for Engineer. Thief, also, it is strongly implied there will be Scepter for the Thief as well, and Ranger is also strongly implied to be Hammer. So we kind of know a little bit about some of the specializations, just an itty-bitty bit. So there's some ground for talking about this, and that's where like the whole pet NG thing is actually coming from. But I mean, I actually think it's kind of hype. I think the pet. I am a little bit scared of AI in the game. I love a 6K tail swipe as much as the next man, right? Okay, in PvP, but I like this idea that you could make this kind of construct, maybe like a jade or an amber construct or something like that, and the utility skills you take and the traits you have, like modify it so it has like different abilities. You take bomb kit and the golem has like a gun arm, right? And it like a bomb arm and it fires bombs, right? You take elixir gun and it like, you know, runs around injecting your allies or something like that.
Oh, yes.
Vaccinating everyone.
Can you imagine the pet names for that one?
That would be good.
It will be almost as good as Rangers with pigs named My Ex-Wife.
Oh dear.
I've seen that. Triple Trouble Worm in like 2014.
How do you remember that still?
I remember everything, Mela. It's very hard for me to forget. Life is very painful.
Actually, speaking of like building your own golems and stuff, what if they also made it something like kits? Like, let's say you equip grenade kit. It actually equips it for the golem instead. And you can throw grenades kit at the range of the golems, like enemies.
Oh my god. Wait, then what's the point of the player at that point?
It shouldn't
hit things with its mace or whatever it's getting.
Yeah.
So wait, so would you like be controlling the grenades and the player at the same time then? Somehow?
You'd be like, instead of you throwing the nades, it would be like the golem. Like the golem has to be in range or something like that.
The elite
maybe you
skill
lose
will be
your
the
tool belt skills, and the tool belt skills is the golem control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the golem's range abilities or melee abilities.
That would be sick in PvP because you could put the golem like in some place where it could free cast on the point, and you are down on the point, and the golem is just like raining grenades onto the point, and you're like, okay,
maybe that's a bad idea. I take that back.
The golem's free casting. That'd be great.
I don't want that anymore.
Yeah, I like this. I like where this is going. I can't wait to see the preview.
I honestly, I can't wait for this last preview because do you think that's how it's going to be? The first is, oh wow, great job, ArenaNet. These three, you know, these six, they don't seem to completely destroy the game. The last three just annihilate everything, right? It's like announcing Firebrand and Scourge at the same time. Just like, you know what, dude? Just annihilate, just completely throw everything out.
What did I say after like the reveal stream was done? I said that they are basically combining 2 specs at once with all of these elite specs for End of Dragons.
Yeah.
And they all made sense. So now they did not combine Scourge or Firebrand with anything yet. Well, I guess Scourge is Rev now. I mean,
Rev
maybe
is also LA.
Yeah. Okay. Then we can do Scourge and Firebrand. Why not?
What in one? In the one spec.
Yeah,
pretty powerful.
Why not?
Pretty good.
That could be Thief.
Yeah, it's Thief. It stealths is steal the enemy's abilities, so you can steal meteor showers from allies. And it also gives Aegis. It spams Aegis. It gives Mega Barrier. It stealths people. When you stealth them, you also heal them at the same time.
I like this. I like where this is going.
Yeah.
Whenever I saw the Bladesworn trait that just gives 250 ferocity, and it's like a minor trait, you know it's going in a bad direction. You know that if this is the one in the middle, the last 3 are only going to be broken. They'll be completely broken.
Well, I mean, as long as they're broken in an okay way, it's all right. I don't know. I think ArenaNet has learned from a few past mistakes, I would say.
I don't. Not yet.
Wow.
I think they're learning. I don't think they've fully learned.
Well,
I don't know. Well, Virtuoso and Willbender. I mean, is that learning or not learning? I don't.
They learn too much.
I completely recant everything I said about Willbender after learning about Boon Engie.
Wait, why? How are those two events?
Because I said it was going to be the coolest class for soloing dungeons. But Boon Engineer, Boon Scrapper is the best class for soloing dungeons. So Willbender, I don't care about it anymore. I was really hyped. I was really pumped up, but not anymore.
Wow. Brazil's been converted to the Scrapper. Yeah. It's a good call. It's a good class there as well. It is. It's big. But anyway, I mean, we'll certainly see that coming out there. But in the meantime, we still have one more elite specialization to discuss, and it's Catalyst. Okay.
Yeah.
It's Elementalist. Mela, you are an Elementalist main.
That's a lie.
Okay.
He changed to Harbinger main.
Yeah, I'm Harbinger main. I'm Green Elementalist.
Give us what's the story on Catalyst? Give us the juice.
When I saw Catalyst during the previous stream, I I kind of lost my mind. I was like, dude, this is completely busted. I could not believe what I was looking at, because you can, like, I was also theory crafting invisible rotations in a training area on stream like 2 days ago, because the spec is not in the game yet. I was trying to figure out how that would work, and it seems that you are very easily able to keep up perma quickness. And also, it was confirmed now that it's not actual wells. Like, it doesn't work like as a well mechanic. So you can take Chronomancer loons. Otherwise, you could have actually come to the fire well, give might to your group and quickness at the same time, and that would have been a bit, a little bit too good. But no, never mind. It's not wells, but it seems that it will play. It will be like a DP, very, very offensive, like a quickness support. Otherwise, by what I'm looking at, it seems that it will actually do very good damage, because the buff that you get that increases crit chance by 7%, 5% outgoing power and condition damage from the fire armor 3 skill, like, you can permanently keep that up, even without alacrity, actually. So you have a permanent crit chance increase. When you don't have crit chance up from the buff at the beginning of the rotation, you have a lightning hammer. So your perma crit capped for free. The damaging skills hit pretty hard. You have constantly ticking field on the ground with modifiers rotating all the time. And the rotation is also pretty fast. Like, gameplay-wise, from what I was trying to understand, it would kind of play similar to current Scepter Warren Power Tempest. So you're like switching all the attunements to upkeep the Hammer 3 skill up all the time, so you can have permanent damage increases. For some reason, Water 2 hits extremely hard. I guess it's because it's a melee range weapon. Same thing for Earth skills. Like, Earth skills also seem to be hitting extremely hard. It's probably because of the fact that Fire and Air are ranged, and the other two are melee, so maybe they give them more damage. But it seems that it will be very, very fun to play. And also, there is this trait that gives you damage increase, like, it gives you 2% outgoing power and condition damage increase when you gain an aura. So Healy Tempest is pretty good for that. But you could also just play a support quickness catalyst that runs like water traits. And whenever you get an aura, you give catalyst the auras, and they can keep the buff up and have even more outgoing damage. Also, conjure sharing is now probably a thing, because there is a trait in fire that whenever you drop a conjure and they, like, your allies pick it up, they get an aura, and that aura would give them a damage increase. It seems to be very intricate. The rotation is probably going to be very fast, but damage, I don't think it's completely broken for damage. Like, it's not going to be like Weaver on release where it's like 70k or whatever it was. That was something, right? But I think it's probably going to be better than people think. And again, like, Nike and Teapot said this, I'm going to say the same thing. I know what I'm saying, right? If it comes out as complete garbage, I was right anyway, because I just said this, right? But yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. And also, Brazil, I think, said this earlier. The fact that you get like stats just by basically existing, it might make it the best quickness tank hybrid DPS boon provider, because you can also give like aura and give like swiftness and fury to your subgroup at the same time. It seems to be doing kind of everything besides alacrity. It's like Firebrand without Aegis. Like, it's the exact example I would have given as well. I don't know. I think it's a little bit too good for PvE.
Really?
Not DPS wise, like in a different way, right?
Yeah, I actually completely agree with you. I think it'll be a really busted support class, to the point where it pretty much... Alacrity, you'll have to figure out some way to get Alacrity into all 10 people. Maybe, well, no, I guess you won't. You could still play Alacrite, and then it's fine. But you'll have to figure out a way to get quickness into the other subgroup, unless it was... I think it was just 5-person quickness.
Yeah.
The Lightning Field. Oh, no, because you can just take Harbinger, and you can just give it out for free while still doing 50k DPS.
What are we doing? What do you actually do on Catalyst, though? So you do damage and you give quickness. What else can you do? Is that it?
Well, it's going to be like the Aurelian Soul of Guild Wars 2. It's going to be impossible to play, and there are only going to be 3 people that know how to do it. and everyone else is going to try, and they're going to think the class is bad because they don't understand it.
I kind of think Catalyst is actually a little bit it's conservative is the way I look at it. Actually, in terms of numbers, I actually really like the design on it, right? I think it's super cool. I love the hammer weapon. If hammer isn't meta,
for sure.
I'm just going to petition ArenaNet to buff it until hammer is meta. It's such a cool weapon. I love that third skill. So this third skill, guys, that Mela was talking about, what it does is that you get like, you can basically charge up a little orb that follows you around that does damage, right? And then if you go to water, you can do it again on water, and then again on air, then again on earth, right? And you can like unleash all of them as well, you know, once you've charged them all up. And basically they'll all be going around doing damage, right? Like following you around, right? Like hitting them all at the same, hitting all the enemies around you at the same time. Super cool ability. One of the coolest skills in the game, actually. Looks amazing, is amazing. It's good content. But the thing is, what do you actually do outside of doing damage and applying quickness? Because I know you can do protection as well. You know, you can give a bit of protection there, give a little bit of might too, of course, with that. But it's going to be really difficult to actually upkeep all of those because they designed it quite well, right? Like when you say, you know, air is what gives the quickness, right? So we're in air giving quickness, and let's say we move to earth, right? Then okay, now we're in earth. We're not pulsing quickness anymore. You're only pulsing protection. And also, if you want to move your sphere, your jade sphere, you have to cancel it and you lose all your energy. You've got to charge it up again. And to do that, you need to like land attacks, which to be fair, will charge very, very quickly. But still, you know, you have to reposition your sphere, and it's not a really big AoE whatsoever. I actually think it's surprisingly, I know it looks insane because of how many abilities it has. Kind of like, you know, well, Ellie has loads of skills, right? But I think the utility skills are actually quite weak. In terms of the utility they provide. And I actually think it won't actually do as much as it might first appear. And that trait modifier, the stat modifier, I just think it's very conservative because there's a weird thing about that stat modifier. So, you know, the way it reads, it says like 1% all stats per stack, right? That's pretty good, right? It's pretty good. But the thing is with this, okay, is that it only applies to stats that you get from gear, right? So that's not your base stats. So it does. In other words, if you don't have any toughness, it won't give you any extra toughness. It will only work on gear. That's how it works, as I understand it. So it's not actually as good as it sounds because it's 1% modifying the stats you get from your items, not your overall stats. So
it does make 4-stat stuff higher value than 3-stat.
2-stat gear.
Well, and it also makes like even like it makes Celestial like insanely high value, but like it closes the gap between Berserker and Marauder in an interesting way, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. It just seems to me that I'm not sure how much value you're going to be able to squeeze out of your Catalyst outside of doing damage and giving quickness. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, of course. You know, you don't want these things to be super, super overloaded, but to me, it actually seems fair, right? Pretty fair, actually, with the way it's set up.
The application, okay, like, first of all, you also mentioned this quite often. The chat might get bored of it, but it's just true. Like, Firebrand existing makes a class that does damage and applies quickness. Yeah, it makes any class that applies damage and quickness is like, oh, it's damage quickness, but it's not Firebrand. Who cares, right? That's true. But the boon application, you can pulse. Okay, so the energy is 30 energy. You drain 2 per second. You could technically apply like 15. It's like 15 ticks. Every tick would be applying 4 seconds of quickness. And you also have this trait that increases, without you taking any like boon duration gear, it increases the sphere boon application by 50%. Now, if that goes over the cap, I'm not actually sure. I think it might go over the cap.
Yeah, if it only increases the base duration.
Yeah, because it's only for the sphere boons, so it might actually do that. But even if it doesn't, you can apply enough quickness by camping air, for example. And then be like, okay, I did a bunch of quickness. You can go into like fire, water, earth, use a bunch of skills to re-get the energy back, and then go back into air afterwards. And you can do all of this while permanently upkeeping the Hammer 3 skill. And also probably without even running Fresh Air, but you probably would play Fresh Air with this. So I think the boon application is actually, it will probably be better than it sounds, because in the video you had perma quickness without the trait, and without any boon duration gear, by camping it. But if you don't want to camp it and you take boon duration, then it's easily doable. You can even maybe do quickness and might at the same time, but the problem with that is the might build up will be very slow, so that's not worth
Strength
doing,
runes are coming back, or aristocracy.
It might. And I think as far as builds go, like, this is kind of like the weird thing. Like if you don't have a healing tempest that gives you auras for damage increase, you might actually have 3 builds with this. One is just damage, which whatever, boring, you do damage, right? The other one will be like damage quickness, which again is not Firebrand, so it's kind of whatever again as well. Unfortunately, Firebrand being in the game just kind of ruins everything. But you also might have another build that gives, it's like quickness, bit of damage. When I say bit, I mean probably still like 20k, so it's not really a bit. But you're also buffing the other catalysts in your subgroup by giving them auras without needing a healing tempest. And you don't necessarily even need a healing tempest, because Condi Tempest, it's basically, it gives like the same amount of stuff as Heal Tempest without the actual healing output. So like this is something that some people might be familiar with when it comes like endgame PvE. There was like a Matthias record a while ago that had a lot of like classes interacting with each other with like auras on warrior and like aura share ally and stuff like that.
Powerful synergy.
It might seem like that could happen and actually be worth it when I look at the numbers. Assuming that, well, Firebrand gets finally, stops being the best class in the game. Next to Scourge, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm on Elementalist Copium hype, and I think this will actually be fun and also maybe be better than the ally mains.
Do conjured weapons give stats when you hold them?
Yeah.
I think Lightning Hammer, Ice Bow will be really good on this.
Oh,
because you can just hit the AoEs to recharge up your energy, right? Like the lightning fields, whatever it's called, on like 4 or 5 on the hammer. It's been a while since I've played Elementalist. I think this actually will be the best class in the game. But I think people are gonna not be able to play it.
You know what? I would really like that to be the case. But you know what? I want to hear a hot Nike take, but first I have to activate, guys. Okay?
Oh.
Yes, I am aware, guys, that it's balanced, that, if you want to do boons, you have to kind of commit to it, right? You have to say, okay, well, I'm going to give quickness. But what I don't like the idea that the game is turning into this thing where it's like, oh, you're a DPS class that does 30k DPS and you give 1 boon, you give quickness. Oh, you're a DPS class that gives that boon as well. I don't like the idea that our amazing deep combat system with loads of cool profession mechanics, like, oh, Ellie always has water attunement, Guardian always has access to some virtues, Necro always has access to some level of support skills. I don't like that we essentially take that system and force it into a Trinity system. Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. I like the idea of having a really wide spectrum of builds, some that do low damage and do multiple rolls, some that do 1 roll and do loads of damage or loads of healing and loads of boons, and everything in between. I really dislike the direction the game is going in with some of these builds, where it's like, oh, you do exactly this one thing and no more, right? I don't think that's very interesting. I think that's essentially homogenization. You're essentially saying everything does the same but is a different color, right? What really is going to be the big difference between, say, Harbinger and Catalyst in this regard? So Harbinger does Condi damage, right? And gives quickness, right? And then Catalyst is doing power damage and giving quickness. And Scrapper is doing power damage and giving quickness. Like, what is distinguishing these builds that much? Scrapper actually has this because you have Function Gyro, which is actually a really neat piece of utility, and it has super speed. That's great. But what about Catalyst and Harbinger? What did these things actually do, right? In the fight, outside of passively apply boons, right? I really don't like this passive gameplay that I'm seeing crop up a lot. I like things, again, like Scrapper, right? You use a Function Gyro, or as much as I hate to say it, even like Scourge and Firebrand, right? They're very reactive professions, the way you play them, right? You know, you place your shades and use barrier reactively. You use your defensive skills, use your Aegis, use your tone 3, tone 2 reactively to the situation. How is Catalyst going to play out? It kind of seems like you just kind of attack and passively apply boons. You're not like really engaging with the fight, right? You're not responding to anything. And Harbinger, this is the definition of this. Like, con the Harbinger, you do damage. If you play Quickness, it's literally the same build, except you passively pulse Quickness while you're in Harbinger Shroud. This is not gameplay. This is non-interactive gameplay. I do not like the idea of the interactivity of the game going lower, right? And the amount of kind of player decision-making and player skill going into how you play your build going down, right? That is what I don't like about all of that. But there you go.
Can I add on to that? Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with you. I don't like it personally, but I think it's actually correct to do that in some cases because it makes accessing raids and like if you want to, it's the same thing, right? So some people allegedly don't like action cam. I've heard that there are some people that don't like action cam, but I've heard that there's a good argument to be made that it helps accessibility for some people. And I think I almost sound like I'm trolling with this, but I promise I'm not because I don't like boring. I want to play. I like a mid ground between absolutely boring and absolute chaos. I think having a class, which like Necromancer traditionally has been the class that I think people that want like cool lore and relaxed gameplay and they want to be really good at doing like one specific thing flock to. And I think having that class, like if that's the class that gets people into raiding because they can play it and it's very low stress and it gets them to raid or it gets them to do strike missions and they can have a role that's very valuable, I think that's a good thing. But I also, it's such a toss-up between like what's healthy and what's not. And it's just such a trade-off because Ooga Booga, me stand still and I punch with both hands while I give arguably the most valuable boon in the game. That's problematic, but also if someone deals with some level of anxiety, if someone deals with some level of they're just not able to mechanically do the same things as like Mela is, the elementalist god, if they can't do that for some reason, I think having that level of accessibility can be a really good thing. But it's just difficult to determine the cost and if one's better. Maybe they're not better. Maybe one's not better than the other. Maybe they're just different, or maybe they're just different costs to pay. I don't know. But I can definitely see both sides, and I could definitely appreciate both sides of it.
Yeah, to me, it just seems to be the wrong approach, right? If we're worried about the game being inaccessible, then I don't actually think making the professions easier to play necessarily fixes that very well. Because, I mean, hey, look at the game right now. People still really struggle, right? Like, you can find you can probably find someone in the game right now who's dead to Big Nose Ted, right? Like, that has happened. Okay? That happens a lot. Okay, you will find people who die to like the Mushroom King, right? You know, in Heart of Thorns, right? And you'll see people who die to just random mobs, right? Out in the wild. I mean, look, fucking dude, there is a stat on how many people died to Pocket Raptors, okay? And this is apparently something that actually kills people in the game. People actually die to Pocket Raptors in Guild Wars. So yeah, the frog kills people, right? You know, like it destroys people 1v1, annihilates them. So I don't really think making the professions easier actually fixes this. I think the way you do it is just by making the actual content itself easier. Because in my opinion, if you make the game easier, you sacrifice the interestingness of the game, right? If that makes any sense. But if you just make the game easier and then add difficulty settings, then you don't really sacrifice any interestingness in the game, and you have a much better solution to fixing the accessibility problem. We're kind of bleeding into last week's TeaTime, I guess.
I've made a channel in Discord called Frogs Only, and it will be exclusively for pictures of frogs and for frog watching.
What, the Frog Safari?
The Frog Safari. Yes, I've also made a guild called Frog Watching Safari. Nice. And I go on Heal Necro and stand outside of the frog, and I watch the hero point, and when people die, I go in and res them, and then step back and let them continue to play. And I just help them out with the hero point. I'll do that for like an hour at a time.
I know that's very, very wholesome. Actually, I like that. But you just let them learn to 1v1 the frog.
Yeah, for sure.
About like difficulty, then okay. So right now they are not, make the content easier. Like right now they're not gonna add difficulty settings, right? Because they're not doing that. Well, they're doing that with strikes for the expansion, but raids are not getting any anytime soon probably, and the same for maybe tier 0 fractals or whatever. Would you say that these specs for this expansion should have been made more complicated, even if the content is not easier yet?
Yes. Because these things are permanent, the content can be adjusted. Like these elite specializations are never going away. Like, and I would say that reworking an entire elite specialization is probably more of an undertaking than changing the way the content is in the game. Because let's be honest, do most people actually have like a really bad time in big group environments? Honestly, no. Right? Like when you're in a Zerg, does it really matter if you don't know how your spec works? Not really, no. Right? Like it doesn't matter that much. Like, if you're just doing some chill open world content, it doesn't matter, right? Like you can do your Octovine chat Garen and just mash your buttons randomly and you'll be fine. You can beat the story by like mashing your buttons wildly and you'll get the job done, like all that kind of stuff. So I don't think it actually matters that much. I don't know. Maybe it's just me kind of like saying, oh no, like these elite specs, they don't do that much, but I don't know.
I can't speak for the first 3, but these 3 are going to have a pretty high skill ceiling. The Vindicator, the Bladesworn, and the Catalyst will have a very high skill ceiling.
Yeah,
like
I think
I don't know if that is like where you were going with that, but like I understand like with the Harbinger, you press 2 1 1 1 1 2 1 1 1 1 1 2 1 1 1 1 1, and all of a sudden everyone around you has quickness, and you're also doing damage. Like that's pretty straightforward. But like the people that are just pressing 1 on Catalyst aren't going to be doing shit. Like they're not helping anyone. They're not going to be pumping out massive boons, I don't think.
Yeah. I guess what I don't necessarily like about some of this, Vindicator would probably be the exception to this for sure. What I really like about what I don't like about some of this stuff is that it feels like you don't really have the ability to interact with the fight that much on these outside of doing damage. And you don't have any utility really, right? All of your abilities are going to go into your rotation in just doing DPS, which I just don't find to be a particularly compelling. I don't find that a very good utilization of the Guild Wars 2 combat system. I don't think like pure DPS specs that have some passive boons attached to them are very interesting. I like things that are a bit more interactive and have the ability to react to things going on, right? Like if you're a Harbinger and shit's going down in a raid, what do you actually do? Like what ability do you press that will help your group, for example? Like you can't do anything, right? Like you are entirely dependent on someone else carrying you. If you're playing Harbinger, essentially, you are a DPS spec that pulses quickness. You can't actually do anything, right, to influence the fight very much. And I almost feel like it will be the same on Catalyst. Like if you're on Catalyst and something starts going wrong, what do you actually do, like to change the flow of the battle, right? You can't do anything, really. Not yet. Well, maybe you can. It depends. I guess it depends what weapons you pick. And wait, does the water orb pulses healing or something like that? Maybe you could get something done with that, I guess. But I don't know.
Aren't you asking for more firebrands then?
Well, I mean, I like that sort of thing. I kind of want balanced firebrands, though, right?
Okay.
When I say balanced firebrand, I mean Dragon Hunter. Shit's going down, I can use my F3, right? I can block, right? And do that. I can heal my team with my F2. If I'm, playing something like Engie, I can use Healing Turret to heal everyone. That's the thing. If I'm playing Elementalist, I can use Wash the Pain Away, or maybe I've got Rebound on, for example. I can do, there are buttons that I can press that do something, that are reactive, right? Because, when you're looking at stuff like a DPS role, yeah, you're obviously, you have to dodge all the mechanics and stuff like that, but you don't have the ability to interact with the fight other than killing it, right? If that makes any sense. You can't.
You're biased because you like to play support classes that carry fights. Like Mela likes to play DPS staff Fresh Air Tempest that just does a shit ton of damage. Like
I think there is a little bit of bias. I agree.
People want to play different. Like,
but like
I don't want to play Heal Scourge at all, and I don't want to play a class that plays like Heal Scourge.
I don't think it has to be like Heal Scourge, but like I think there is a little bit of bias. But I also do agree with the fact that, for example, like the Harbinger example, like the number 5 skill in Harbinger Shroud is a really powerful CC. It's very fast as well. Like, what if that also maybe applied a little bit of barrier to like 5 people, or I don't know.
What's the number 5 skill on Harbinger Shroud again?
It's the AoE float.
It's the float, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The gravity wall.
Like they can make that one give a little bit of barrier. I don't know. Maybe every time you press number 2, the projectile like heal your teammates or something like that. Like, yeah, I didn't fully understand what you meant, Teapot, but now I do. It is, yeah, I feel you, but I don't think it's that bad. Because, like, for example, you're playing Weaver, you are supposed to be this like squishy mage mega damage thing. You kind of are supposed to rely on other people to do stuff for you.
Yeah.
And the same goes for Harbinger.
You have
like,
9k health.
Harbinger even more than Ellie now for whatever reason. Like you are literally Noodle that hits for the opposite of a Noodle. And that's all you do. It is extremely boring, but if that's all you want to do, you can do that very well. Right?
I'm not saying that specs like this shouldn't exist, but I guess I just view it as an inferior way of using the Guild Wars 2 combat system, right? Like, why are we adding Trinity specs in a non-Trinity game, if that makes any sense, right? It should be like an option to be a Trinity spec. I don't have a problem with that, right? If you want to play a glass cannon, dude, do it. You know, like Weaver, Deadeye, right? Like Thief to an extent. Awesome. Nothing wrong with that. But even if you look at Thief, like Thief has loads of cool shit it can do. You know what I mean? It can interact with the fight in some way. And even, you know, back in the day with Tempest, right? Well, this is one of the reasons why Tempest was so OP, right? But yeah, Tempest did 1 million damage, and it also had loads of things that it could do kind of built in. And I think that if you don't have it to an extent kind of built into the class, it will just never be worth it. Like, if you have to make your build shit in order to go, you know, to actually do something, then you're not going to do it. It's going to be a really bad decision to make it, right? To actually go in that direction. And I know that it's really difficult to balance, but is it though? Is Dragon Hunter like really overpowered? Is Hollowsmith really overpowered even though it has loads of utility? No, it's not, is it? Like Scourge and Firebrand are, but that's because they do a bazillion damage and they have insanely short cooldowns for insanely good abilities. So there obviously is a balance that can be struck here because we already have this in the game. There are plenty of good utility DPS specs, right? I would say the really good example would be say Condi Soul Beast. You can do stance share and cool stuff like that, like Bear Stance and remove Condis. You have some support there. Condi Tempest is actually a really good example of this, I think. You know, you have some support built in. You can do boons. You can heal a little bit when you're playing Dagger Warhorn, stuff like that. Dragon Hunter, again, you have healing, you have block, you have Aegis, you have some stability. Reaper is also a great option here, kind of a more aggressive option there, like a bit more selfish. You're tanky, you've got loads of CC, loads of cleave, you can pull mobs in, stuff like that, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, those are the kind of specs that I think are, that's what I feel that's missing from these specs, right? Like, not the giga OP Firebrand Scourge, right? That's obviously too far, but I just mean a little bit of reactivity, right, in PvE, right? Just and funny enough, I think that's actually one of the reasons why some of the specs kind of suffer a little bit in PvP too, is because they are limited in how they can react to things that are happening, right? Like, you can't stop things happening to you on these specs a lot because you are so one-dimensional in the way your build is actually going to play out a lot of the time, which I don't know, like, I know I am biased there because I do prefer more support hybrid oriented builds there, but I think it's actually a legitimate concern here with not only the design of the elite specs, but also the design of the game in general, right? With that.
I mean, it's always been that way though. Like Mesmer at launch was like a support spec, you know, like in the 4 Warrior 1 Mesmer days. Like Mesmer did all the mechanics and Warriors dropped banners and did damage, and that was just how it was. And I think that's in a sense the same way that we are now. Like it's just moved in that direction.
I think, this might be a hot take actually. I think vanilla Guild Wars 2 was the most balanced the game has ever been, but people just didn't understand it.
I don't know about that. It was too hard to make boons outside of warriors.
Yeah, but I think that's fine. I think that's okay. I think because you had Ranger Warhorn, you had Ranger Spirits that were good, but people thought, oh, Ranger sucks because pet class LOL.
Frost Spirit had that ICD though, so it was like...
Yeah, but they fixed it though. But it was fine. Like I
don't know how vanilla we're talking then.
Well, we're talking like before, like post account wallet update, like post like some of the big updates where they like
so
quickness
like
is a boon.
Like
like pre-hot, like maybe like
2 weeks
before
HOT came out.
Nah, not 2 weeks, like a year before. I think that's the most balanced the game's ever been, when it was only core specs and you had variety. Now there's like too much stuff that's really specialized, too much stuff that just does everything, like a Alacrigade, like you have to have it pretty much. There's no option. Every squad for every content has an Alacrigade. There's no debating it. And I don't know. See, here's another thing. Like Teapot, like I'm not trying to hate on you. I think maybe you're just too good of a salesperson. Maybe you're just too charismatic. And maybe your point just seems better than it actually is. I'm actually gonna I'm not trying to shit talk you, but I think maybe we have a case of that going on. that's just, I don't know.
I mean, in that case, I wanted to kind of wrap up some other topics there and talk a little bit about fishing and maybe DX11. But
yeah.
What I think this is a good topic, so I kind of want to poke it a little bit, right? What is our vision for PvE in the game? Like, what does the ideal kind of landscape of builds, specialization, strategies, and playstyles look like? What is that?
I think it's difficulty modes, and I think it's people having fun. I think on easy difficulty modes, you can play without any boons at all and still do the content, and people will just enjoy it. I think you're going to have hard mode where there's going to be like a hard meta that's non-negotiable that might change with balance patches, and I think that's what people that want hard modes want. And I think you have a middle ground where it's people thinking that they have ideas that have never been thought of and trying new things, when in reality, like, all the ideas have already been thought of by people that do hard mode, and none of the ideas have been thought of by people that do easy mode. I think if I could make Guild Wars 2 into that, I think it would be the perfect game, without any question. I don't think anyone would even be able to deny it. And I think it easily could be that. I think all of the infrastructure is there. The whole entire framework is there for it to be that. I think they just need to commit to adding difficulty to raids and maybe to strike missions too. I think if they did that, the game would be perfect.
This reminds me, we were talking about what state the game has been the most balanced in. It reminds me of kind of release raids. You had the mirror comp. You had warrior, druid, chrono, and then DPS classes. During this time, because druid had Glyph of Empowerment, people were going really aggressive, and they went with the 2 damaging spirits and Glyph of Empowerment. And you run without protection back then. You didn't have any prot. Then, you started running Hammer Guardian, Hammer DH, and you have perma protection while doing mega damage or whatever. But that's kind of what I would like to see raids be at some point, without the Tempest doing a trillion DPS for no reason. I would like to see protection being a little bit harder to get, barrier being a little bit harder to get. Actually, maybe not. I don't know. But it's kind of a combination of both. The combat system is really intricate. It can be more intricate, but if the combat system gets more intricate, the content needs to get easier. But at the same time, people also want the content to be harder. Like the same people that want the combat system to be more complicated, they also want the content to get harder, but they also want the content to get easier, because if the combat system gets more complicated, then the game is way too hard, because it's two things being hard. It's the content and the combat system, right? I think it's like an amalgamation of things that needs to change. But the most like, I would like to see stuff like Vuln, for example. Like back in the dungeon days, like Brazil and Nike were pointing out earlier, getting might and getting vulnerability was actually a concern. Like you had to constantly upkeep Vuln, constantly upkeep might. You had builds specialized to do this, to buff themselves and the group. Now you have that as well, but you don't have to like constantly worry about it. Like vulnerability is a joke, right? And they're like, oh, sometimes you lack Vuln and you need to take Storm Spirit. Yeah, that is one skill on a class that is already doing a million other things at the same time. That's not a concern. That's Druid being, well, that's a Ranger being Ranger, right? So I would like to see Condis maybe be a little bit more difficult to apply in 10-man Condi, which is really hard to do because it's 10-man Condi, like 10 players that can literally play any class in the game and any spec they want, right? Like, I wouldn't honestly even touch the offensive boons, but the defensive boons and defensive utilities, defensive like stuff like barrier, maybe not, maybe yes, but protection definitely needs to maybe, like, apparently I didn't really play other MMOs that much, so I don't have that much experience, but apparently having permanent protection in something like another MMO is an actual dream. Like you would actually use the protection boon whenever mega damage is about to happen, right? That doesn't happen in this game. In this game, not having protection for like 2 seconds is like, you know, you get flame for that.
Yeah. I think there's an ability in WoW that's a bit like this, and it gives you 25% damage reduction for 8 seconds, and only if you stand in the AoE as well.
And what's the cooldown?
Is it probably like a minute or 2 minutes or something?
Yeah, like that's what I mean, right? Like I don't know. Like the content needs to be easier. The combat system needs to be harder, but it also goes the other way around. Like the combat also needs to get harder, easier. The content also needs to get harder. It's kind of a combination of both. Like ideally, I think the game would make more use of stuff like combo fields. I mean, they're kind of trying to do this, right? They wanted to like bring combo fields back by making them prioritize your own, which didn't end up happening anymore, but they will maybe soon again. They are trying to do this, but
you kind of get what I mean, though. Do you not get the idea? Do you not feel that the game has become insanely passive in raids and in PvE content in general?
Like, it kind of became with HOT already, though.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's certainly during the boon era, but I wouldn't say not necessarily during HOT as such. Like, because back then, even stuff like Stone Spirit didn't really exist, right? You would run a fucking Hammer Guard, right, to actually apply protection and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. The entire time. That's what you want more of, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I want more of. Yeah. I guess in a way maybe something like Catalyst does this, right? Because you'll pulse protection when you go Earth, right? But the thing is, that's useless because Druid exists, right? Yeah. That's like a useless mechanic. Like all of the things that Catalyst can do are rendered redundant by how strong certain builds are, right? And that's why I guess I don't like a lot of the utility that a lot of elite specializations are bringing now to the table, or different builds can bring, gets completely invalidated by these hyper efficient builds that are applying these effects permanently and on everyone in the entire group, right? It's pretty crazy. And yeah, there were certainly some other things back there, guys. Tempest, pretty good. Wash the pain away when you were running like 4 Ellies on every single boss. Turns out that's pretty good. Heals like 8k, right? On everyone. Pretty good skill.
Like
pretty
full
damn
DPS,
good.
8k heal on every single Ellie.
Yeah.
Like
it's pretty strong. Well, it's pretty good ability. Support skill. It really is. It's good stuff.
A good example of like active gameplay. So since we're talking about Catalyst, would be like you run a cat. Let's say the Stone Spirit just didn't exist. Let's say that every mega protection application didn't exist, right? Let's say the protection is like a very rare thing to achieve, and you have it on Catalyst. You're like, oh, I don't know, like it's Demos CM. After the explosion happens, you have this like ticking debuff on all the players that tanked the explosion with Aegis. I proc protection. As soon as the buff is gone and we're not taking damage anymore, I start pulsing quickness and might again or whatever, and doing my DPS rotation. Like that would be like what you kind of want to, right? Get. Like you go in Earth on Catalyst exactly when you need protection.
Exactly. And this is what I mean. The Dragon Hunter. Someone was saying I was being contradictory here. Guys, nice lie. Nothing I said was contradictory, okay? But anyway, the Dragon Hunter. You use your F2 when you need to heal people. You use, even on DPS Tempest right now, you use Wash the Pain Away when you want to heal people. You use your F3. You swap to Water on Staff on Tempest and use some stuff. Or on Warhorn on Condi Tempest, right? And then like, bam, blast your Water Field to heal people. That to me is what Guild Wars 2 should be, It shouldn't be, and look, I love Scrapper, guys. I am a Scrapper enjoyer, right? It should not be, I am using my gyros off cooldown to give passive quickness, right? That's not right. It should not be, I am mashing all of my abilities on cooldown to apply boons, right? Like, one of the reasons why I don't play Druid is because Druid gameplay is you don't have utility skills. You literally don't have utility skills. You have things that you mash off cooldown to apply boons to your entire squad, right? This is not what look, if you want to do stuff like that, you know what the weird thing is, okay? I was actually going to say, if you want to do that, go and play WoW. But I just realized, WoW isn't like this, right? Watch any level of WoW gameplay, and they'll be saving defensive cooldowns on their DPS classes for different times. They'll be calling barriers anti-magic shells, right? Convoke, stuff like this. Like they'll be actually chaining all these abilities together and actually working together. I don't know. Like if PvE is less reactive in Guild Wars 2 with a action-style combat system compared to a tab target global cooldown system, to me, it seems like we've taken a wrong turn in terms of PvE design and the way builds and encounters play out. Yep. But there it is. And also, we're not disagreeing, by the way, guys, okay? You know what? Nike, tell us what they were wrong, though, okay? I want to bring you into this. I want to bring in the debate. He's got the pen. He's ready to unleash.
I mean, I'm happy with the direction of encounter design. Like, I'm not really, I don't need everything to be super reactive. I don't like to play healers. I don't like to play revive bots. So I don't need to be like the guy who pops Aegis at every mechanic to block it and carry the group. Although I do appreciate that guy existing because I like to have the Aegis. And I get really mad if the Gorseable Slam doesn't get Aegis every single time. But I mean, that's why there's multiple classes. You can get that fix without having to fuck everyone else's class into that. Like not every buff needs to be Glyph of Empowerment that is up a third of the time, and you have to pick and choose. Like, it's nice to have some buffs like that, and it's also nice to have other buffs that are just passive. Like I think there's space for multiple ways of playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
The only way that's not before we move on to the content, I want to talk about Reddit a little bit and the LE stuff.
Oh boy.
I think we've seen like the circle, like we've like the LE like saga, like the whole like post a meme about how LEs are always dead like thing has like kind of like run its course, because like they were like before the Catalyst reveal, they were all like, if this isn't a ranged class, I will uninstall the game today. And then it came out to be a ranged class, and they were like, "You're okay. I'm keeping the game installed for now." It's like, oh man! And every post by someone with an Ellie flare is more cringe than the one before it. And I don't want to offend any Ellie mains.
This is a dangerous game you're playing, Nike. This is a very dangerous game. They're gonna see this. Okay.
There's nothing they can do, but they like every post by an LE main is like the biggest self-expose I've ever read in my life. They're all like, I'm always dead. This class is terrible. And it's like, I don't know, man. I think that's kind of a you problem, and they don't realize it's a you problem. They think it's just the class because they're great. They're good at the game.
Oh no,
but
my
every single post,
dislike ratio.
If you could filter the Reddit, I wish. Oh my god, implement a thing where you could filter the Reddit by flare, so you could only see Ellie flare posts and like read that. Oh my god, it would be so bad. It would be like every post complaining about being dead and being bad at the game and just like admitting it, and it would be so good.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's spicy. A little bit of spice. Before moving on, I like that little bit of an introduction there.
They're all like, oh, I'm on a class that dies and it does big damage, but they die and they don't. None of those players do big damage. So like
TPS uptime.
They should find another main, I guess.
Rev Vindicator.
Vindicator is
Let's
made
go.
for them.
Yeah, heavy armor, medium HP, and has Meteor Shower. And Meteor Shower doesn't have a really long cast time, and it is instant as well. What's not to love
here?
I want to add to what Nike said.
Okay,
real quick, and just say that that's true. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Oh, nice. In that case, smooth transition here, guys. Perfect segue as always. There are a few other things I wanted to talk about, and of course, we didn't have a tea time last week where fishing was revealed with Skiffs, but I actually do want to talk about it because it is an important part of the expansion, actually. So,
you sure?
It's not that bad, right? Okay, because I actually got in a bit of hot water because I basically criticized fishing quite harshly. I said, how is this Guild Wars 2 fishing? Okay, like what about this mechanic is special to the game? Because
the fact you can't grief it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can you do that in? Can you grief in other games? I guess you can steal.
Have you ever played Arcade?
No. I kind of wish I had though. Actually.
Yeah, that's a griefing game. You can grief people's fish away.
A pay-to-win griefing game, which is the best kind of griefing game, because it's like who can be the biggest degenerate and ruin their life to grief in a video game.
In fishing, of all things, the most relaxing thing.
Oh, okay, but anyway, like and to me, I was like, okay, mounts that Guild Wars 2 mounts aren't just mounts, right? They're very different. They are instantly recognizable. They are unique to Guild Wars 2. And I'd even say a lot of the masteries from HOT, right? Gliding, it's a pretty special thing, right? That's kind of cool. I guess you could do it. I think there are a few other games that have gliding, actually. To be fair, actually, I can't. Wait, did Arcade have gliding? Arcade had gliding, right? And Aeon probably has gliding, right? Because you can fly because you're a weeb angel or some shit in that game. So yeah, I know it's I was really expecting to have some kind of really cool mechanic, and maybe they haven't revealed it yet, right? It's entirely possible, like, hey, look, I want to be wrong once again. But to me, I just wasn't super impressed by fishing at all, the mechanic. I was much more impressed by Skiffs, actually. I thought that's a pretty interesting mechanic. I like the fact you can kind of build the land bridges, but I don't know. What do you guys think about fishing? To me, it was just very, very generic and not super crazy, really.
I think I actually will have more fun driving in Dallas traffic than I would fishing on a boat because my car is loud and it's fun to drive. And skiffs and fishing poles don't give me... I'll just go this far. I don't even think I'll bother to unlock fishing or skiffs unless I have to. They give me nothing.
Brutal.
They give me absolutely nothing.
I sort of agree with Teapot in that when Guild Wars 2 came out with gliding, it was like something that no AAA MMO had ever seen before or done before then. And it was like ArenaNet putting their particular ArenaNet polish to make something that was better than you thought possible. If you're like, oh, they're adding gliding to an MMO, you kind of have an idea of what that's going to be in your head. And then when you saw how ArenaNet implemented it with the updrafts and the masteries, you were like, oh, this is better than what I thought in my head. And then mounts came out and you're like, oh, they're adding mounts. Okay. And then when you saw it with the different mounts, they each had different mechanics and the masteries, you're like, oh, this is better than I thought mounts were going to be, and it's the best implementation of anyone in the genre. But then the fishing was sort of just like, yep, this is MMO fishing. Like there's no like ArenaNet polish on it to like where you're like, wow, this reinvents fishing. Like every future MMO that comes out is going to have fishing that's like as good as this or better. Like it's definitely not that. It's just checking a box, fishing. Got it.
I agree. Yeah. And like I don't even have sky scale unlocked. I don't have underwater skimmer unlocked, and both of those things are very useful. And I can't even see myself being like, I don't have the Icebrood Saga Masteries fully unlocked because they don't give me anything like useful. Like I don't see the use in sky scale over Griffin. I don't see the use in underwater skimmer over just swimming. So like there's absolutely, this is just maybe just a B thing, but I don't see any point at all in the boats or the fishing. They give me nothing.
And this is a very common thing I get here, guys. People always say, how do you make it interesting? Well, thing is, guys, I would have said, and I think a lot of people, by the way, would have said, how do you do that with mounts? Okay? Because mounts and MMOs, what are they? They're movement speed increases, right? Like if you go and play WoW, they make you go faster and you can fly and you can walk on water. That is what they do. Okay? And Guild Wars 2, as Nike said, completely flipped that on the head. Like seriously, I really, look, I know that a lot of people said, Teapot, you've criticized mounts a lot. I do. I think that they do have negative impacts on games, but that's irrelevant here. I'm talking purely about design, right? ArenaNet added an entire genre of game into their game when they added mounts, and that is undeniable. If you hate mounts, if you love mounts, it is undeniable. When they added the Griffin, they added an entire new mini game of activities that you could be doing in the world, like racing around, the area, doing all the little courses and stuff like that, and just moving around the world as quick as you possibly can, using all the different controls and the way the mount works. When they added the Beetle, they literally added a racing game into their MMORPG, right? I mean, look, obviously it's not going to be quite as detailed as, say, an actual full-on racing game, but you got to give him credit, right? Like, it has all the cool physics, right? It has the speed. You can roll down a hill really fast, right? You have the boost. You have drifting. It's extremely well fleshed out. Like, the Beetle is damn well fleshed out for a mount in an MMO compared to just it makes you go a little bit faster. And you can say the same thing about the other mounts too, right? About the Raptor, about the Skimmer, right? Especially now with the underwater Skimmer too. Right? And all this stuff. These are extremely polished and well fleshed out mechanics. And that's the criticism, right? Do they promo about this before mounts, pre-POF? Not really. That's why I and a lot of other people were quite skeptical about it, right?
Griffin was a surprise.
Yeah,
too.
It was literally a secret.
It was hidden.
Well, it was technically leaked, right? But it was broadly a secret, I think. No one even knew that was going to be in the game on launch. That was super cool, by the way. I kind of hope they do something like that actually for the expansion too. But I don't know. Like, that's kind of my take on fishing there. I think there are ways to make the content really interesting. Like, for example, there could be like bosses you could summon by fishing. I think that would be really cool. For example,
I was thinking of that actually.
Imagine there's like this really big body of water, and to summon the boss, you need to have like 30 people all fishing there on skiffs at the same time, and that like summons this big world boss. That's kind of cool. I can't that okay, right.
And you anchor the skiffs and you fight it on the skiffs.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Now we're talking, right? That's good. That's big. Okay, because we have the ability to make our own little cool platforms with the skiffs, and I've got to say, I am a skiff enjoyer. I do like the skiffs actually, because the really cool thing about skiffs is that when you anchor it, it actually is collidable, right? It persists, and you can move around on it and use your skills and mount up or whatever while you're on the skiff. So I'm just imagining you can put the skiff somewhere, fight a boss, fight enemies on the skiff. You can make like a giant ring of skiffs and run around there as well. There's one thing we don't know. They said it works in parties, but I'm not sure if that's only parties and not squads. I really hope it works in squads, so you can make like a mega, like a giant skiff thing, right, with loads of people lining up their skiffs. But maybe that just like breaks the game. I don't know.
And they might actually do world boss like this. We don't know what the world bosses are, if there is any, so that could be extremely cool. Yeah, I agree.
It'd be like spring break on Lake Havasu.
What the
For
fuck?
all of you American college students, you know what I'm talking about. Girls going wild, topless,
wow.
TOPLESS.
Oh.
You know,
Whoa.
beer.
You want to? I mean, I think that will
boats.
be. I think that will be very interesting to people in Guild Wars too. Actually, like judging by their
That would
current
be.
tastes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put a whole bunch of beachwear in the cash shop.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
sell
if there's
big time.
beachwear, I would buy beachwear in the cash shop.
I mean, look, how long is it? People have been asking for like to get the.
Imagine
the
if they had a
South Sun
Borat, the
Tasman
Borat,
outfit. Oh
like,
my, the
one
mankini
piece.
shit.
Yeah,
Dude.
the mankini in the cash shop.
Farron would have one. Farron would absolutely
They
have
would
one.
sell so many of those.
A package with a skiff skin.
Oh yeah, a
fishing
package.
skin,
That's for
a
sure.
goldfish skin and a bikini as well.
I
would buy them. I would buy them.
I think everyone would. I mean, dude, imagine that. Like, imagine the insanity of like doing a raid boss with 10 people in mankinis. Male Norn as well.
Oh
Norn.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Fish skin. Ah, yes.
But
Oily
there are
Bee,
ways
good
to make
name.
fishing interesting. Like there were games on like the regular, like the old original Nintendo like fishing games that were like compelling games by themselves, and all it was fucking fishing. You know, like so. There's ways to do it where it's like a compelling game. So didn't they say that there was going to be like in-game fishing tournaments? Like maybe that'll be more compelling in practice than we think.
Yeah, it'll be just like adventures.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's not like because like if it's just like a who can catch the most fish in the next like 45 seconds, then it's just like a speed mini game, like where you get good at like playing the mini game. But like if there's like actually like a strategy to it, then that becomes interesting. Like,
I mean, those you can grief people.
I like griefing. I'm a huge fan of griefing.
Yeah.
But yeah. Outside of spawning, but see, here's the thing. I could ride on other people's boats. I wouldn't have to unlock it still. I just need Rifle Warrior.
Wait. Oh, what? Rifle Warrior? What is Rifle?
Yeah, if you can summon like big bosses, like it's The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, where you have the seagulls circling overhead, and you go in, and then the big octopus comes out, and it has the eyeballs you shoot out with the cannon. Like, if we can do that with Skiffs in Guild Wars 2, I might unlock the Skiff. But still, like, I could just ride on someone else's Skiff and not have to unlock it because I wouldn't do anything with it by myself. That could be cool. I don't know. If you could put weapons on the Skiffs, that would be cool. But we have turtles. If you could take the turtles into the water, if it's an amphibious mount.
Oh, I wonder if
if you could do that.
That's a good
wonder
question.
if it's amphibious.
That's a very good question,
That's
actually.
very interesting.
Yeah. Huh.
I was about to say, what if you can customize the skiff with cannons? But yeah, if you bring just a giant turtle in the water, that's even better.
That's seriously amazing. Yeah.
You can mount up on the skiff, even if the turtle can't go amphibious. You can just mount up on the skiff with the turtle. Yeah. It's like it's an aircraft carrier, but it's a turtle carrier. Just move it around, move the turtle with you.
I bet the turtle will be amphibious. Like, that would be so good if it moves slowly. If the cost is that it moves really slowly, but it can go everywhere, that would be amazing. That would be so damn good. That would be so good.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's got potential, and I think there could be some cool collections, new foods, new optimizations and customizations that you can have for your character. That's kind of nice. Always good to see new stuff like that. Obviously, we're going to see new items, probably new stat types, new runes to kind of go along with that, and fishing power. I really hope there's like fishing power gear they add to the game, so you can like full fishing
magic
power,
find,
full fish power setup there, full legendary fishing gear, legendary fishing rod, legendary lure, legendary bait as well. That's big right there.
That would be legendary bait.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, legendary bait on the gem store, right? Like that's where the real memes are. I guess they probably
It would be like launch, where I can't remember what the stat was called, but launch you could get toughness, vitality, magic find gear.
Leech.
And it was in the game for a while. I think it was called like Explorers or Treasure Hunters or something. Maybe it was Explorers. But if they did that with fishing power, can you imagine toughness, vitality, concentration, and fishing power?
People join the raid with fishing power
Fishing
gear on.
builds.
Oh man. Oh no, I think that's quite a promising.
We'll wait
I
to
think the
see.
Skiffs
They'll
are quite
probably
promising.
surprise us with some of it.
Yeah, they better had. Right, I want to see legendary fish, fish bosses, fish gameplay, fish everything, and skiff races, skiff contests, right? Fishing contests. I think that stuff can be pretty cool. And it is just another like thing to do in the game, right? A little bit of a little chill activity.
See,
Nothing
one
wrong
thing
with
I
that.
wonder is like a lot of people that want fishing, that were clamoring for fishing, they sort of seem to want like the AFK fishing, like the RuneScape sort of thing, where you just you start fishing and you go to work and you come back 8 hours later and you have like another 50 gold in your in your inventory of fish. I think that's what people seem to want, and this is not that for sure. Like this is active. So this is like kind of like a middle ground between like super active, which is what you want, where it's like this like not intense gameplay, but like, like very active gameplay. And it's definitely not AFK. Like, so what they gave us is kind of like a middle ground.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to engage your brain very much, but you can't AFK either.
That definitely confused me a bit. You're absolutely right. That was something I got a lot when fishing was revealed. Everyone was like, oh, I can socialize while doing this, right? I want to be able to, kind of just chill out and AFK and talk to people. Well, it's like, you kind of can't. You're not going to be typing while you're fishing, right? Like you're going to have to actually use your keyboard to, steer the little marker, right? The little bobber to actually catch the fish, right? It's no more AFK than say doing a meta event, right? Or doing the Octovine, right? In fact, it's less AFK than doing the Octovine, because if you're doing the Octovine, you have that downtime phase at the start, right? And at the end where you're waiting for the next event, so you kind of have more time to type at the same time and like chat with people. So I don't know. It is a bit of a weird thing, like the whole socialization thing. Although I do agree that I really like the feature where you have that fishing part. There's a mastery called Fishing Party where basically you get more fishing power per fish caught on the skiff, and everyone gets that buff. So you can kind of like juice yourself up very, very quickly by everyone fishing at the same time, which I think is pretty cool. But it doesn't really strike me as what people think it is, Nike. I think you're absolutely right. People really want that big AFK thing, but it's not. It isn't AFK, right? Not any more than the rest of the game is anyway, right? Like the rest of the game already has this ability. But then again, I mean, maybe open world is just, I guess it's even less intense than open world, right? Like with open world, you have to be moving and using your skills. I guess with fishing, you don't really have to do that. But to be honest, I feel like a better way to do this, like to actually get social gameplay back, would be to add guild missions, no? To actually bring guilds back. Like that to me seems to be where the real social features would be added to the game, would be through guild functionality, and funnily enough, through alliances, which as well, right? Alliances are going to be very social and very guild oriented. That is where, if you want to add more social features and incentivization to play with other people and kind of get to know people and make friends, then you look at guilds, you look at alliances, you do guild missions, new guild hall, right? New things you can do with your guild, guild map events, right? Like, rewarding players for doing a fractal with their guild, doing, dungeons, PvP, raids with their own guild. That would be the way to look at that. Not really add this other feature that is kind of semi-AFK, right? I don't know. That's my take on that.
It's just some nodding going on.
Yeah, just a little bit of agreement.
Fishing. There's not too much to.
It's fishing gaming, guys. Okay.
I'm not a fan of fishing.
I think they should add difficulty modes to fishing.
Ooh, fishing CM.
Fishing with action cam. Can you do that?
Oh, I don't see why not. Yeah, you probably can.
That's just bait.
It's more realistic, no?
Yeah, really. Yeah, you throw out the fishing.
First person fishing with action cam.
It's very, very, very big indeed. Content goes. That kind of is about what we're going to talk about. I was going to talk about maybe talk a little bit about DirectX 11 there as well. Could maybe mention Alliances here at the end, guys. World vs. Order cornerstone game mode. But it's kind of those things where there's not really that much to say, really, because DX11 sounds pretty cool. And there was an article published super cool in-depth article from James Fulop, I believe is a senior engine engineer at ArenaNet, and he actually was making some tweets. Some people were saying that, oh yeah, it's not going to do anything, blah blah blah, right? And he was like, oh, actually, yes, it is, right? And he actually wrote this post. Ooh, yeah, just like damn, that was zingers, like zingers. I mean, a bit like Roy on the World versus World thing, right? You didn't read the article, Roy. Like, oh, nice from Grouch. They really are keeping everyone on his toes. But anyway, the article basically said that they have optimized the engine in such a way that a lot of the rendering actually might not end up necessarily being the bottleneck at this point. And that, to me, I'm obviously not completely familiar with the technologies, but it actually sounds like that is going to be a pretty damn significant performance improvement, particularly when it comes to stuttering, because specifically what James Phillip was saying was that the stutter was going to be eliminated. Not necessarily like the FPS was going to be 1 billion FPS, but the frame drops. So for example, I mean, I think every raider knows this, right? And every World versus World player knows this too, right? Less so in PvP, but when you start a raid boss and the camera zooms out in a raid, like your FPS just nukes itself like into oblivion. I think Gorseville is really bad for this, right? And when there's like a Zerg nearby in World versus, you can, it's actually like a bit of a metagame thing. When you're in World versus World, you can detect if there are enemy players around because your game starts lagging, right? Like that is,
you can feel the Zerg.
You can feel them in your presence. And I think that is actually what's going to be attacked, right? Is this prevention of frame drops because of resource stalls, right? And basically the renderer having to wait for work being done across other threads. That's the optimization that's happening here. And to be frank, that is actually in some regards better than just flat increasing the frame rate, because what really makes a game unpleasant to play is that like jitteriness, right? That like, yeah. It's not good. It's not very nice at all. So I think this is some really, really good stuff, in addition to, of course, a bit of an overall frame rate improvement as well in terms of overall efficiency. So I have to say, I'm in a way, I'm pleasantly surprised. It seems to me that DX11 is going to be perhaps better than I thought it was going to be, in fact.
There's one drawback that I've not seen many people say, is that Taco will be unaffected.
Good.
And you'll still be able to use Taco. I was hoping that DX11 would break Taco, and since it's not being actively developed, that it would be gone forever.
Oh, yes,
but instead, we're stuck with Taco, and there we go.
Well,
and there's that.
I mean, that uses like I think that uses a totally different.
Yeah, it's an overlay, so it doesn't interact with the game engine at all.
Yeah. I think that just uses a different API, the Mumble API, which is actually very powerful, by the way. The Mumble API, dude, the Mumble API is borderline ArenaNet breaking their own TOS. Like, no joke, dude. Like, it is actually insanely. You could make something extremely abusive, okay, with the Mumble API.
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's all I can say, guys. Right? Like if you really wanted to, if someone sat down and did it, you could make something insanely overpowered. Basically, like very similar to something like Deadly Boss mods, right, in WoW, right, or something like that. You could very easily do this. You could make an add-on that would tell you exactly where to go every single second of an encounter, essentially. I mean, if you use different APIs, like stuff like the Arc DPS API, you could even use that API to basically, count down ability timings. You could use that to tell you to move around certain AoEs, right, where to go. There's a lot of like really intense stuff you could make it do, like rotation, like auto rotation things that it could tell you to press in the right order. There's loads of like pretty insane stuff you could do with that API, but
you could
just make burrito. Drive Taco out of business.
You could just have auto rotations, or you could just map complete all of Path of Fire on launch in 12 minutes.
Wait, I mean that's a different DLL. That's a very different DLL.
That's actually a feature in Taco's debug. You can hack with Taco.
Oh yeah.
Ban Taco, please.
Yeah.
Ban everyone associated with Taco.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to actually do it.
Oh, wow.
This is the hottest take imaginable. They should ban all third-party software. And if you use any form of third-party software, you get a 6-month ban for the first offense, and the second offense, it's a permaban. And the flip side of that is that they add their own DPS meter and their own more robust graphics options to the game. So you don't need arc DPS and you don't need reshade anymore. And
what do you mean add a DPS meter? There's already a DPS meter in the client that they could just turn on.
Right. It does actually exist. They could just enable it. But give us that stuff. Yeah, no, who cares about radial mount? See, here's the thing. It's all or nothing. It's all or nothing. Ban radial mount, ban taco, ban Blish HUD, ban arc DPS, ban all of it. Just ban it all. And they just give us features that are first party that are actually better or just as good.
Wow.
Easy.
That's a big take.
I actually agree with that.
Yep. It's impossible. You can't disagree with it.
Also add gear inspect.
Yeah, add gear inspect.
You kind of had me in the first half there, right? That started out as like an absolute Giga Inferno take, then it kind of blended into an actual, wholesome take there as well at the end. Because it was a good. You had me in the first half right there. But yeah, I don't know. Like we're kind of memeing here about taco. I don't really have a problem with taco. I don't really care about it at all. Like it's whatever. You can use it if you want, or don't. It's entirely up to you, really. But yeah,
taco, ban Mike.
Yeah, ban Mike. Yeah, honestly, that would be the only good outcome of banning everyone who uses taco is that Mike would finally be free. Yeah, that actually might be worth it. I'm sorry, guys. Everyone who used taco, you're going to have to get banned just so I can justify banning Mike from the game so he can be free from doing his daily 3-hour meta train, right? Where he has to gather up all of the choice boxes from every meta in the game and then not open them. I'm saying it on stream. I'm saying it on TeaTime. Mike collects meta event boxes and doesn't open them. Okay, that is real. I want to free him from this suffering. I want to free him from this personal hell that he has, where he has like thousands of these things unopened in his inventory. Okay,
just RMT a bunch and have it sent to his account. Done.
Ooh, that's good. Actually, yeah, we could do that.
We're not doing that. We're joking.
It's just a joke.
It is a funny jape.
Convince him to make a comment about Eastern Europeans that's off color in guild chat, and then that's the only surefire way to get banned in Guild Wars 2.
For reference, guys, that is exactly what happened to Roy. Just for context, there, guys, that was not a random thing. Roy was basically spamming
and wooden potatoes.
Oh well.
I would actually say that typing offensive things in guild chat doesn't matter and doesn't get you banned in some cases, because we saw a wonderful example of that just the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did.
Did we? In what guild?
I'll tell you about it afterwards.
Oh, wow.
It was really bad.
And also, to be clear, guys, Roy was talking about a person whose name in the game was Slavs. This got somewhat misinterpreted by the GM seeing it. Just to really clear that, guys, before everyone here gets banned, right? So we've got to shut it down real quick. Okay, we've got to shut that down right now. Anyway, DX11. Do we have any kind of closing thoughts on that? But before we get mercilessly sidetracked yet again by the topic.
Bring it. Let's go. It's good.
I agree with what you said about the stutter. Like sometimes you'll turn your camera around and see like all these character models, right? And the frames will just like delete themselves, and after one moment they will go up again because they finally the game finally recognizes all the characters, maybe all the nameplates and stuff. Like I don't think this game necessarily has an FPS issue. Like if you are complaining about FPS issues and you're doing, I don't know, like open world events or playing World World with Zergs, and you are playing the game at like the highest settings on character model limit on highest, yeah, of course there will be some FPS issues. Like it's not a single player game with like 5 characters on screen. It would be nice to have like highest character model limit in World World, I guess, because you do want to be able to see all the players. Even though it's just mostly like AoE stuff. But yeah, like apparently the FPS increase on the machine that he was showing in the mega post you mentioned earlier. I don't really understand the technology either that much, but some people said that the FPS increase is like between 10 to 16%. It will of course depend on the computer and stuff. But dude, 10 to 16% on like is more than I thought it would have been. But the like the stuttering being gone whenever you literally move the camera to your right for like a little bit, or whenever a raid encounter begins, or when the raid encounter ends. Maybe even when you open the guild panel. I'm not sure if that's related to that in any way, because when you open a guild panel, you can freeze it for like 2 seconds or something like that. That definitely makes the game feel worse. Like, it makes the game feel worse to play like that than capping it at 60. Honestly, like, yeah, if you've been playing a game at like 120 FPS for a very long time, going back down to 60 is really bad. But it's way worse to play at 120 where the game is like constantly lagging all the time than just have a smooth experience, right? So yeah, I really, really like this. And also, there's no need for like add-ons anymore. Then like
nice.
the constant
nice.
Yeah, it's really nice because the update for like the X12, unfortunately it's gone. The guy put a lot of work into it, but it doesn't require any updates. It's in the game already. People don't have to go out of their way and download. A lot of players are missing out on it because they don't even know that this update, this DLL or whatever, exists, right? So everyone has this now. It's in the base game, and it just makes the game, I saw a lot of websites saying, Guild Wars 2 after 9 years of release is finally getting an update. Yeah, it's really finally, finally I can run my game on more than one core.
Nice.
Yeah, when you have a 9900K and Guild Wars 2 runs at 30 FPS without the add-on, it's third party.
And that is worth noting, actually. The machine that was used in the tests by James Phillip in the blog post, it was actually designed to be a somewhat average machine, slightly above average. The specs were an Intel i7 6700 and a 1080. NVIDIA GTX 1080. So obviously, and it turns out if you look at the Steam chart stuff, it turns out that basically that is an almost exactly average CPU and a slightly above average GPU. The average GPU is a 1060, I believe, and the average CPU is again very similar to that CPU. So your mileage may vary, right? Okay, if you have a better machine, you might even get more value out of the upgrade to DirectX 11, because you might even be able to get more throughput to generate more performance there as well. But it should be a really, really big step up, which is quite nice because it's a pretty common complaint about the game. And it, of course, opens up more routes for them to add more things. I believe, in particular, lighting and shadow is something that is much... there's much more they can do with the lighting effects in the game using DirectX 11 versus 9, which could definitely be very, very, very handy indeed, actually, because lighting is what makes games look really, really good. A big part of it anyway. Very, very important part of games technology. It's very good. And just to quickly talk about why not DirectX 12, because I know this is like a really big thing a lot of people ask. There are a few reasons for this. One, there's basically a fairly easy way to do it was essentially implied. It's much easier to go from 9 to 11 than 9 to 12. So that's the first reason. Another reason given in the blog post was actually compatibility issues. For example, DirectX 11 will still work with Windows 7 and actually even Vista, as it turns out, I believe. Yeah. Okay. Whereas DirectX 12 is a much more modern architecture that I believe starts with, I think it was like Windows 8 or Windows 10.
Windows 10,
yeah, Windows 10 with DX12. So again, there's a compatibility issue. And obviously, ArenaNet don't want to just, hey, lock out people who are using Windows 7, because people are still using Windows 7, guys, right? Like, hell, dude, there are probably some people still using goddamn Windows XP, although maybe not. Okay, maybe that's too
NASA.
far.
NASA is.
I don't know.
company my friend works for is still using XP.
Yeah,
because they spent $50 million having software developed 30 years ago, and they don't want to spend more money on it, so they think it's just as good. They couldn't improve.
Yeah. What does someone say? Oh yeah. Actually, that is right. Sassy is actually correcting us here in real time. Yeah, they actually did port it. They did backport it to Windows 7, which I remember reading about this actually. Yeah, Sassy's absolutely right. So it's I guess less of a compatibility issue, but that was kind of mentioned in the blog post. So there was a reason there. There was some level of compatibility, which is one of the reasons why they didn't necessarily want to go in that direction there with regards to that performance. But and they also thought that a lot of the issues with performance weren't actually necessarily related to just pure throughput. It was also because of essentially problems with the way that the game was actually rendering itself. But there you go. So that was then fixed and then resolved, and hopefully it'll be very, very good. Okay, Windows, whatever version of Windows you're on, guys, Guild Wars 2, It's going to be running a little bit better. Now, here's the disclaimer, guys. Very important disclaimer, guys. Here we go. This is not going to be the magic bullet. You're not going to log on to Guild Wars 2 during the beta, which, funny enough, starts this this coming Tuesday as well. You're not going to log on and go, oh, my game is running amazingly right now. That's simply not how it's going to be, right? It's not going to be this magic bullet.
Unless you're on Bladesworn and you have no particle effects on your gun blades, then the screen will be uncluttered. And you'll have like the most insane FPS you've seen in a long time.
Oh, nice. That was a good one. That was a good callback right there. I love to see that. So there it is, guys. They're not ArenaNet. They're not only attacking performance by rewriting the game engine, they're also going about it by reducing the amount of visual noise in the game. Next up, they're going to remove the mandala back piece and all the vermilion skins there as well. Just get rid of that real quick. But yeah. Maybe not. Maybe not so sure about that one, I guess.
There's a Nelson Mandela back piece. I want that.
Yeah, there is.
That'd be sweet.
Wow. Well, there you go. I think that's all about it for DX11. I mean, we could talk about alliances a little bit, but you know what? I'm not even sure it's that necessary. A lot's been said about alliances. Okay, we might just tease everyone who's watching the show. Like a little tease there. Just say we're going to talk about it, then not actually talk about it there as well. But
the only thing I want from alliances is the drama when a guild like Hardstuck gets paired in an alliance with like hardcore 24/7 worldview worlders who are like angry that they're paired with quote unquote PvEers, and there's lots of forum posts about like they don't like and blaming the PvEers on them losing.
I think
that's going to be interesting.
That will still happen, right? It will still happen, but I do think that it will be a bit of a smaller version of that, because right now you have that a lot. You have these big clashes where servers and links and guilds will get matched up with each other, and there's problems, right? There are definitely big problems. It will definitely still happen, but because the player still has more granularity, they still have more control over this now with the way that alliances work. You can kind of join all these guilds together. I think that will actually be somewhat minimized a little bit, right? It will be definitely reduced, I think, in how much you'll actually see this there as well. So I think that is a good thing. But yeah, you're not wrong. Like this is actually the problem. Actually, it's funny. Like this is definitely worth discussing. Is that it is true that now you have the ability to pick guilds to play with, but you're essentially going to get shuffled to a random server all the time, right? So, for example, there are often world versus world servers where a lot of the hardcore players go, right? They'll all go to the same servers. They can have their big fight groups and have lots of fights. Now you can't actually choose that, right? The game is going to pick your server. So you no longer have the ability to say, okay, we're going to go to this fight server and have loads of fights, or we're going to go against this other guy to have loads of fights. Okay. And this is definitely by design, right? Like this is 100% by design, because one of the things that they want to do is, instead of saying these players want to transfer because they want good fights, they want to remove that problem. They want to say, you won't want to transfer because our matchmaker is going to work, and you won't want to transfer because our matchmaker is working, and you will have good fights and you will have a good matchup. But it will be interesting to see how that actually plays out in practice, actually, because I think there will be a little bit of friction between some alliances, I would imagine, being shoved onto the same world. And of course, pugs. There will still be pugs, guys. I think this is... Look, read the blog post about alliances. Go and read it, but they go into this a little bit. But basically, if you're a free agent, you just get assigned into a team where you're needed, basically. So you're good to go. Right? You are good to go. But I don't know. I think it will work out very well, because it will sort of force it to be competitive, right? Like it will have to be competitive, because now bandwagon almost doesn't even do anything, right? Like you can bandwagon, but you can only do it every like 2 months or whatever, every time there's a new team that gets made. And in theory, that means that over time it should kind of settle down as alliances and teams get kind of sorted out into the way they like to play and the level at which they play. But there you go. What's the mean there? Alliances. Pretty good system. I approve.
I'm for alliances officially.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Yeah. I am an alliance enjoyer. Okay, for world versus world. A bright future, a bright future for World versus World. And yes, they have also talked a little bit about, listen, you know what, guys? You know what? I'm going to be very, very lazy. We're going to skip the alliances section of this podcast. I'm just going to refer all of you guys to go and watching the Q&A that I did with Grouch and Raymond. Go over there. I'll link it in the TeaTime description, so whoever gets here can just go ahead and like quickly pause
Roy
this,
left
and then
out.
move elsewhere. Roy, yeah, I mean, well, he was left out at, in the cold as he deserves.
Poor Roy.
Yeah, there it is. I won that. But yeah, go and watch that. But yeah, they do talk about rewards. Reward restructuring is incoming as well. Matchmaking stuff will be dependent on loads of stuff like activity level, how much people are contributing, people if they're winning, if they're getting kills, right? Like what are they doing? Like types of things that are going on within that there as well. But I think in general, just the way the game is going to play out will inherently reduce friction between players. Because right now there's a really big divide in people in World versus World who just want to get there and basically AFK and leech, people who just want to do PPT and capture stuff, and people who just want to fight. Now, why is that? Well, the reason is because there essentially is no win condition in World versus World right now whatsoever. The win condition isn't even a thing, right? Okay, and what this means is that obviously people only want to play for fun, for pure hedonism, right? All they want to do is like have as much fun as possible. And this obviously leads them to play in very different directions. But after alliances, and when they look at rewards and they look at prestige for your alliance doing well, for your team doing well, well, that will no longer be the case. Now, all of a sudden, it's going to be, okay, you actually want the PPT guys to be going crazy. You actually want the kill squad to be going around doing stuff, and you'll actually want to collaborate. It very heavily incentivizes players to collaborate here, even if they have different interests, different skill levels, and just different ways of playing the game, because everyone's going to benefit from combined efforts, right? And they'll eventually, try and win their matchup, win that stuff there, and, earn glory for alliances. So I think ArenaNet's been clever. I think there are some concerns to have about alliances, but I do think that ArenaNet's been very, very intelligent about thinking about how this system might work. I guess the 3 years this has been in development has finally paid off. But yeah, very smart, I think. And yes, the game will die, okay? I like that. The game is dead. Guild Wars 2 is dead, my
Servers
friends.
shut down.
Yep, pretty much. They are
Not
going to
even
shut
the
down.
precasting deletion was enough to save the servers.
Nope. No. Ah, yes.
Too expensive.
Wait, that gets fixed on Tuesday, right, as well? They fixed the precasting thing, I think?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. Just
Maybe
so everyone
some other
knows.
bug fixes.
Look, I'm not going to let you guys forget this. Chat. I know how everyone was like really, really riled up about this. Dude, I just want everyone to know. Literally, like, there were like 8 teams going to play in the Fractal tournament. They all rage quit, okay, after the change. Okay, they're big mad, guys, big mad.
Did they actually?
Oh, yeah. I got a lot of kind of intel on this, right, about some of this stuff from some of the players. And I know it's going to sound silly to a lot of people who don't engage in speedrunning tactics and speedrunning stuff, but it legitimately made people quit the game, right? It's kind of one of those things where you've got to be super careful what you wish for, right? You know how people, back in the day during when raids were kind of dying, they were in the death throes, right? And everyone was like, "Ooh, if you don't like it, go and play Final Fantasy." And then you guys remember how the players who were complaining actually did that and they didn't come back, right? This is basically a similar thing, maybe on a smaller scale, but yeah, people were not like memeing, right? People were not actually trolling when they were like, "Oh yeah, this actually makes me not enjoy the game that much. I'm going to go play another game." Yeah. And then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I bet you won't do it, chicken," right? And then they actually did. And it's kind of happening again, which is a little sad. I'm not going to lie. You kind of hate to see it. I mean, I kind of hate to see it anyway, with some of this stuff, but I don't know. I think this is a good place to stop, I would say, at this point, guys. Okay, here we go, guys. Okay, let us go ahead. Yeah, before things get a little bit too riled up in the chat here, let's go ahead and wrap things up. I don't have any closing thoughts or hot takes for this tea time. I think Nike had a few hot takes prepared. Do you have anything to unleash upon the stream?
No. I mean, I hit my my dossier of takes that I wanted to get out.
All right. In that case, I
Mirth
think
and girth.
yeah. Oh, really? Oh, wow. That's
Some people know what that means. Some
yeah,
don't.
Sebastian is. Let's see if he's still here. See if he's still listening. But anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this up real quick right now. Then, well, you know what? We're gonna go with Mela first because Mela, it's been a long time since you've been on TeaTime. It's been a very long time, I believe.
Yeah, it has been a very long time.
Welcome back into the mix, Mela Gar, Hardstuck leader, right? Not a simp or an erotic role player. Tell us, who are you?
Well, since I'm okay, you deleted two of the things that I could be. So, you know. Yeah, I've been playing those two for a very long time. I've been on TeaTime before. Don't really have like I it's really difficult for me to be on TeaTime usually because most of the things TeaPop will say I will agree with because we have these like mini TeaTimes once in a while. It's just me and him discussing random stuff that we agree on. It's really weird, but yeah, I play Guild Wars 2, stream every day, mostly PvE content. I'm getting a little bit more into World than PvP lately because it's more content to do, and with Alliances coming, maybe I'll get a little bit of World as well. Raid trainings, organizing events for Hardstuck, and all the usual PvE stuff, build guides and trainings and all those things. You can find me on twitch.tv/Mela, and YouTube, it's Mela on Twitch, because I'm very creative. But there you go.
All right. Love to hear it. And because, I do agree it's no fun when everyone is agreeing with each other. But that's why, guys, people always ask, why do you keep adding that guy in the bottom left? Why is he still here all the time? Well, it's quite simple, because he is the man who likes to tell everyone that they are wrong. It is Brazil, aka Underworld Video, Preston. What's up?
First of all, I apologize if you hate me because I'm back on TeaTime again, and you're just gonna have to fucking deal with it. Second of all, hi, I'm formerly Brazil of Guild Wars 2. Some of you may remember me from such classics as Brazil's Mesmer Guide on Strife 025's channel. I've come a long way since then. And so, yeah, now I take pictures of stuff. I have 7 cameras, and I like to take pictures. And I would really love it if you would check out my photography and stuff I'm working on. You can check that out on underworldvideo.com. That's my jam. That's my thing. There's the link in chat. So that's me. Some of you know me, some of you don't. That's cool. Check out my website. Check out my pictures. Buy my artwork. Give me all of your money, and subscribe to TeaPot and give him your money too.
Boom. Love to hear it. And then finally, he came prepared with a list of hot takes. See if you can go through the video and timestamp each individual one to help out the viewers there as well. It is Nike DNT.
Hello. I make YouTube content for Guild Wars 2 from time to time when there's something of relevance. And I used to stream it a bunch, but I don't do that anymore. But I do stream Zwift Racing Tuesday, Thursdays, 5 p.m. Eastern time, roughly. If you want to see me topless, TOPLESS, that might intrigue some of you. So feel free to drop by. It's good times. Highly competitive, most competitive PvP of any MMO ever.
Big.
Yeah.
So that is big.
And yeah, that's it.
All right.
Follow me on YouTube and Twitch. It's good.
Okay.
Hold on. Also, there was one hot take I didn't. I was on Bumble, and which is a dating app, and I found this woman. I don't know if you can. You probably can't read this. But,
oh no.
Here's her description. I thought I'd share this.
Oh no.
Some of you guys might be interested in this. Yes. I'm not going to give away her name. She says she's an international domina with 10 years of humiliation experience.
Okay. Now you've got me interested.
Yeah, she's a connoisseur of enthusiastic sadism.
Oh.
You guys are interested in that?
Oh.
She's a leather lover, a femme daddy, and a horny comedian. Are you new and eager to learn? I like molding you to my specifications. Vaccinated only.
Well, I like that. Safety first. That's good. That's good. That's a good start. That's a very good start.
First, it's like the last thing on the.
Yeah.
I have her Instagram. If anyone wants it, you can contact me privately, and I'll keep that discreet.
Follow Nike on Twitter for more hot takes like that.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Scorching hot take this week,
yeah, that's true, dude. Nike's Twitter
Cam.
is big. Okay, he is interacting with people on the internet right now and debating them, breaking out those hot takes. Right? Ooh, it's big. First, it was Rocker, and now it's Nike. The accessibility gaming.
I fell into that debate.
Oh wow!
Accidentally. Yeah, I did not intend to. I did not intend to provoke the accessibility mob, but I did. I made a joke about Action Cam, and it turned into an imbroglio where various internet personalities had to chime in.
You were on the radar. The radar is what
I don't want
happened.
to say virtue signaling because that's a loaded term, but
well,
might be synonymous, something like that.
It's time for me to not get banned and instead tell all of you guys to instead follow the stream if you guys like TeaTime, subscribe to the stream if you like it even more, and then go watch all the other TeaTimes. Links to all of these fine TeaTime hosts will be in the description. Go and have a look there. They're also below the stream too right now if you are that way inclined. You want to go check out some content, then boom, you can go ahead and do it. Okay, it's going to be epic. It truly is, my friends. But hope you guys enjoyed this TeaTime. Thank you so very, very much for watching and being here with us the entire time. It was a bit of a long one, but that was actually expected given the amount of content. We did a lot of topics, more than I actually expected to. So huge podcast here for the TeaTime. Absolutely love to see that there as well. Thank you so much to my hosts for joining. It was an epic show as always. Of course, thank you for all of you for watching. I very much hope you enjoyed. Once again, follow, subscribe to everyone here, and we will see you in another TeaTime in the mists. See, this time I got it in there. Okay, Brazil didn't get it. I got it this time. But yeah, that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.